Community Council, and I'm the chair for tonight's Northern Corridor Community Board meeting. I said a little earlier, for those of you that have just joined us, please could you put your name and your organisation into the chat so that we can capture everybody that's joining us tonight. And just for some housekeeping, if you're not speaking, could you have your microphones on mute? And when you are speaking, it would be also nice to see you. And if you want to speak, it'd be great if you could raise your hand so that I can spot you, because I have lots of different screens to look at, and sometimes I miss people. I also have some people to help me spot when people put their hand up. So I'm grateful for them as well. Be aware that this meeting is both live streamed and recorded, so please use suitable language when addressing each other and the topics that we may discuss. I'll take this moment to thank you for coming along, and I'll no doubt thank you again at the end for your participation. We have quite a full agenda for tonight, so hopefully you've been able to read the documents that have been sent out pre this meeting, so that helps move the topics along a bit, so that they don't have to be sort of completely put to you as afresh, so to speak. So hopefully you've had that opportunity. I would first ask if anybody has any apologies for the meeting tonight. I've not received any. I believe that some have been submitted.
Yeah, Chair, I have 4 apologies. Colin McIntyre, Pauline McCall, Elaine Morrison and Inspector Susan Ray. Thank you.
Thank you. The notes from the last meeting were circulated in their draft form, and hopefully you've had the opportunity to review those. Has anybody got any comments they wish to make on them? Can I ask if anyone would be willing to propose that they a reasonable reflection of what happened at that meeting? I know it was back in December. Hopefully somebody that was there could do so. And a seconder, please. Can I encourage somebody to...
Happy to propose, Brandon.
Thank you, Andrew. Nobody else? What do we do if I don't get a seconder?
I'll second them, Brandon. Isabel.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you. I take it that essentially points within it will be picked up during our ongoing agenda, and hopefully we'll get some good debate as we go along this evening. There is an update with reference to the strategic leadership team. Can't hear you, Christine.
Sorry, Chair. I had thought I've put myself in mute, off mute there. It was just in response to the points that were raised at the last community board meeting with reference to the M&M framework, the monitoring and management framework. It was just to let everyone know that a meeting is being arranged on Teams for the 29th of March, and the focus is going to be on delivering and reporting on the LOIPs, and it'll look at some of the information or some of the questions that people had mentioned last time. Information will be circulated shortly in relation to that, and it's open to anyone who is interested in attending. So it was just to let you know that we've raised that point from the last meeting, and a meeting has been scheduled to discuss some of the points that were raised. Thanks, Chair.
Anybody got any comments on that? Okay. Future board meetings. Matt Costello.
Hi, thanks, Chair. Just to give an update on the prospects for going back to face-to-face meetings, Chair, in relation to the community boards, and just to let you know that in this cycle there is a pilot taking place in Motherwell, which gives an opportunity to try and do a hybrid approach to meetings, and depending on the success of that, then we'll then look to see how we can roll that out in future cycles for the community boards going forward, and we'll keep the boards informed of that. How that works out and how we're able to take that forward. We'll keep everybody informed going as this progresses. We're hoping to do it as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm afraid that some of us are getting somewhat frustrated in not being able to have what we would consider to be proper meetings. This seems to be taking rather a long while.
Yeah, I do appreciate that and understand the frustration. It's just, it is in the hand of our business solutions teams who are looking at the best model to allow us to continue with the hybrid approach so that we can live stream the meetings, we can have face-to-face, and we can also have an opportunity to people to join online. It's not as straightforward as we would hope it would have been to do that. There is some specific technical requirements for doing that in different locations, and we're trying to ensure we do that and we do it in the right way. So the pilot will give us an opportunity to see if that works in that area. If that does work in that area, we can then look to see if we can roll that out. But that's the position with it just now, Brandon. Totally appreciate the frustration of people going forward, but can please be assured we are working on it.
Isabel Kelly.
Matt, I can see is what you're trying to achieve is one of kind of accessibility. So, you know, if you can't come to a meeting, but you could probably maybe manage online and you could manage this type of arrangement, and you can manage and people that can manage face-to-face. But it tends to be the same faces that are around the table, and we've continually asked for this. If the technical solution is not found, we would prefer, and I think I'm speaking for most of the community organisations, the opportunity to meet face-to-face. And this has been on for an inordinate amount of time. There's organisations across the country that meet the hybrid methods. This, you know, the technical issues, etc. It's really it's a poor show in terms of being able to communicate with us properly and give us the proper access. But I think for the majority of people, we have been asking to meet face-to-face for the last year since it's opened back up again. And if the technical solution can't be found, then, you know, what we do, stay online forever.
Certainly appreciate your comments, Isabel, and we'll take them back. We do appreciate that this is something people want to do quickly. We want to do it right, and we don't want to lose the hybrid, the positives that have came from being able to do things in a hybrid way. But I'll certainly take your views on board and look to progress that as soon as we can. And as far as we're concerned, we are working on it as hard as we can. We've got teams looking at it. The pilot will hopefully give us more idea this week, or sorry, within the next week or two when that takes place. But well, I do take your points on board. We'll certainly look at that.
Thank you.
My only comment is, of course, is the next board meeting is in another 3 months' time. We don't really want to be repeating this conversation in another 3 months. Anne-Marie.
Thanks, Brandon. Can I just ask what board is going to be doing the pilot with the hybrid?
It's Motherwell.
Motherwell, yeah.
When is that happening?
I'm not sure the exact date, Anne-Marie. I can find it for you and come back to you in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I would like to try and join in and see how it actually goes. So if you can send me those details over, that would be great. Thank you.
If we move on now, our local priorities and the LOIPs. Peter, you're going to talk to us about Moodiesburn West.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just a brief run through. As you know, the action plan updates were sent out with papers to give people an indication of progress to date. And in terms of Moodiesburn West, that subgroup has been facilitated by Moodiesburn Community Action. Katrina Shally's on here tonight. And Katrina, would you mind just talking a wee bit about, I know you've got plans for a consultation to get more views from people in Moodiesburn.
Hi, Peter. Yeah, we were talking about that last night. We formed about, I think, September or something now last year, and it's going well. We've got our bank account details and different things like that now. We've had our first event that Anne-Marie from the Cardown Community Meadows was able to help out with and come along, which was a great success. We do have a plan. Our last Deloitte meeting that Gabby was with, there was quite an urgent thing in Moodiesburn raised about the amount of young male suicides and things. And we've managed now to get a group in the community centre in Moodiesburn now every Tuesday. It's a young chap from Croy who's facilitating that, and we're kind of just taking a back seat, obviously, because it's all very private and confidential. But I wanted to mention it because if anyone wants to know any more about it and would like to promote it within their area, please let us know, because we'll send you the information. The next plan is to send out a little questionnaire to the community to just find out what our community wants from us, really. So that's the kind of a next thing that we're hoping to do. We've also talked about, and I see a couple of the councillors are on here tonight, to maybe invite Councillor McPeak and Councillor Keelty along with Councillor Lennon along at one point to do a walk around Moodiesburn, just to have a look and see what we see, and possibly before or after that community consultation, just to see what they think and get them on board with some of the plans that we have for the community. So far that's it. We're just kind of getting there. We're building up. I've got an extra couple of volunteers, which is really good as well. Kirsty, who is doing our financial stuff, is hopefully going to join us at some point tonight, which is really good. So yeah, it's going well. And yeah, we'll just see how it goes, and hopefully we'll have a better update for you in the next few months. That's me.
Thank you. Peter, any more on that?
I think there's a couple of hands up, Brandon, that Councillor Lennon and Anne-Marie.
Craig Lennon has his hand up.
Thanks very much, Chair. Just by way of further update in relation to what Katrina just highlighted there in relation to the suicides and accidental and drug death in Moodiesburn, I'd raised the matter with Ross McGuffey shortly after our meeting, as Deloitte was not the place apparently to raise such subjects. So there's a meeting scheduled with key health officials, I think, and potentially by the start of next month, for myself and other elected officials to go along and actually look at the sort of parameters of that, and for further discussion about extra provision being offered in the area. So a good result for the folk of Moodiesburn that we can deliver on that.
Thank you, Greg. Anyone else on Moodiesburn? Peter, you're up again for children and young people.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, this is a subgroup that's facilitated by our community learning development staff and supported by Glenboig Development Trust and Cardown Community Meadow, amongst others. I think at the last board meeting we reported that an initial consultation with young people had taken place. One of the projects that had been highlighted there was the need for a health project, and I think again we reported that we were successful in getting consortium monies for £3,000 to support that project, which is fantastic. The next step is now that there's going to be a further consultation with young people in the March-April time. And I think in general, the subgroup who met the other night, there's a lot going on in Cardown currently, a lot in Glenboig, a lot in Moodiesburn as well. And the hope is that we can extend that further and get young people to the activities going on in these areas, particularly areas where people can't get to. So yeah, progressing quite well at this stage.
Thank you, Peter. Obviously, young people are of an interest to us, and I mean there is an item which will be coming up in a little while that focuses a lot on them. You mentioned there about getting people to these events. Obviously, where I stay, how do young people from where I stay get to these events?
Yeah, absolutely good question. I think public transport in particular is an issue, as we know, across the whole of the Northern Corridor, but I think exacerbated particularly in Auchinlock, Cardowen, Steps areas. And one of the considerations is perhaps looking again to a possible application to consortium to look at a community transport project where young people could be picked up and taken to activities in Moodiesburn and Glenboig and perhaps Cardowen as well. So again, something we'll chat with the young people at the consultation, get their views on, but anything that's happening in Auchinlock or other areas, please feed that into the subgroup. That would be great, so that can be recorded and actioned as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll do a quick update in the community transport subgroup, Brandon. Christine's not here tonight, but again, the group's been meeting regularly. Lots of positive activity going on, particularly around bike hub activity. And again, public transport, a big issue. One of the issues the group has identified again is the abject lack of public transport getting into Cardowen. So the group has contacted First Bus, received a response. Wasn't a favourable response at this stage, but certainly First Bus have offered to come out and meet with the subgroup, and that's been planned for March time. And local members here tonight have also been in contact with First Bus and SPT as well, and reported back to the subgroup about their discussions with those companies as well. One disappointing aspect, as people might know, is one of the few Lifeline bus services, 38C, has been reduced to 45-minute service from a half-hourly service. That's disappointing. First are saying that they are recruiting at this stage and looking to improve the situation by the summertime. So hopefully through this subgroup, yeah, we'll get details of that and be able to update the community board perhaps in time for the next meeting in May.
Yes, certainly transport between the communities within the Northern Corridor is a challenge, and you know, reduction in services doesn't make anything any easier. And I do know, you know, a resident from Auchinlock went to an event in Preston, but in order to get there, the sort of circular route they had to take, was. I think they were quite adventurous, but it's fine if you've got the time to do that, but not for normal people, I would suggest. Lorraine, you have your hand up.
It was just to say in the back of the reduction of the 38C service, my children aren't at secondary school at present, but I've had feedback from a number of parents who are concerned about their children getting from Steps along to Christon in time. And I've seen for myself, the children are waiting at the bus stop and no buses appeared, which is resulting in a number of children obviously getting into school late. I know these parents have taken up directly with First Bus, the school, the counsellors, etc. But it's just to highlight it is a real issue getting our young people to education on time when they're forced to use a public service that's not suitable. They would have to actually leave, I think, and get the earlier bus that would get them into school, like the back of 8 in the morning. The gates aren't even open at that time, so that's not a reasonable solution to that. The buses really need to be turning up in time, and the degradation to the service has a real impact on our young people.
Councillor McPake.
Sorry, Chair, a wee bit of difficulty unmuting there. First and foremost, Theresa Aitken, Administrator Theresa Aitken from Glenboig Development Trust has just texted me to say she's been waiting for over half an hour to try and get into the meeting. So can somebody maybe have a look at that and see why she's not getting in? On the buses, and it's sad to say that we received an email today from SPT to inform us that there was another incident in Moodiesburn on Saturday afternoon evening where young adults were throwing stones at one of the buses. On this occasion, it's the 132. That's the bus that goes from Moodiesburn to Muirhead to Gartcourt to Glenboig to Coatbridge. The bus was withdrawn from going through Moodiesburn that day. But this is something that been to put even more pressure on bus companies. This is something we all need to look at, and it's not the first time we're having damage to vehicles and sometimes broken windows and stuff like that, and the danger to the public here. But as a community, I think we need to start buckling down on this. And I don't know if the police are on the call tonight. I'm sure they will be. I know that it's definitely been reported as a police incident, so I think we really need to start looking at this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lennon?
Thanks very much. I think Councillor McPeak's point there was more in relation to vandalism of bus stops. I don't think it was in relation to vandalism of the buses, but I'll stand corrected. Point being is I'm certainly not condoning any sort of behaviour like that, but it comes right down to the nub of the issue. The buses, especially within the Northern Corridor and the villages, seems to be getting less frequent in relation to service provision. Now, at the last Transport LOIP, it was raised that the Ombudsman had recently concluded his investigation into both First Bus and SPT and gave quite a scathing recommendation, Brandon, and I'm happy to share that with yourself as chair, and you can sort of send it out to others if interested. But again, the issue lies with First Bus and its recruitment process at the moment. I understand there's challenges. However, COVID cannot be used as an excuse any longer. We're well by that stage, and it is really a case of we need to start putting pressure on First Bus and SPT to make sure we're getting the appropriate level of service. After all, we are customers and they're getting paid part subsidy with us.
Thank you for that. And of course, we're trying to encourage people to use public transport and use means of active travel rather than more vehicles on the road. So yes, we should be looking to get the transport provision that should be suitable for our needs. Gabby, you're up. You've got the health inequalities.
Yes, we had a couple of meetings. The first one I think was in December or November, and one in January. And the next one we have next week. And we had a very good attendance, and a couple community members and also a couple partners for other organizations joined us as well. And they are very happy to join us on every meeting. And as Katrina mentioned, we managed to organize because of that meeting, last meeting, we managed to organize another meeting when the mental health was discussed, but also an interesting point was made by one young person about alcohol and addiction problem in the area. And I'm working on it to bring some, someone from that team to our meeting, maybe not the one next week, to talk about that as well, because different issues are coming up, from different discussions within the group. Yeah, that will be my update, and hopefully we will continue that discussion. What else is needed, and we can try to solve some of the issues, which are easier to solve quicker, but also some of them longer term. Thank you.
Does your group have any conversations or discussions about the new health facility that's being?
No, we didn't have, but I see that Evelyn Ryan is our service manager is on the call. Maybe she can give us an update. Evelyn?
Yes, no bother. Can you hear me okay?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what I can say is construction's still going to plan, and it's hopefully scheduled to open on August 200 this year, should I say. Everything else is going okay. And for you who lives in the vicinity, you'll see how much has progressed, etc. But I will keep you informed of any progress. Obviously, we're having discussions with staff, etc., about them, moving in the facilities, how it's going to look, how we're going to plan the sessions, etc. So it's very, very positive, I have to say. But I will keep you updated as it progresses in the project. Happy to take any questions.
I was going to say, is there any sort of communications or publications going out for people to circulate within their communities?
Yes, Brendan, that's going to happen. Our comms department in NHSL is involved as well. So obviously at the moment we're still in the construction stage, and once we get something more kind of solid to report on, we will. But you will be getting plenty of notice before the building's ready to open.
Any questions on health inequalities from anybody? Okay, Thank you for your reports.
Brendan, can I just maybe
Thank
just
you.
say some positives here? I don't know if it's whatever. The contractors who are doing the build, so to speak. So they're donating surplus timber to the Cumbernauld Fire Station for their upgrade work. There are also donations to food banks, and there's contractors donating money to Christ and Muirhead Christmas Lights switch on. So there's a lot of positive coming out of it as well. So hopefully that will kind of keep people's hopes up and moving forward.
Thank you for that. Camille, building local relationships.
Hello, Brandon. Yes, let me provide you an update on this one. So, building local relationships, trust and communication, that's the full name of this subgroup that has emerged as a priority within Northern Corridor. The meeting we had was very positive, and I've got a couple of actual updates just quickly. First of all, subgroup started working on a spreadsheet for Northern Corridor organizations and social connections. Both Councillor Michael McPake and Greg Lennon agreed that this is a meaningful and useful tool, but it has to be basically used properly and disseminated properly when ready. So the future success of this actually work is to be decided, whether it will go on online or Facebook or the website. But at the moment, the subgroup decided to keep it actually as it is. The next one probably would be the strong relationships, local relationships were discussed in the communities and the villages and Northern Corridor. And the work that councillors are already involved is really good. So also the composition of the group and the membership has to change. This is what has been agreed and increase, and is going to be discussed. One really key thing was about Councillor Andrew McPherson to attend, which is vital for the success of this particular subgroup. And the final thought was the expectations of community and the model from North Lancashire Council that can be perceived as complex and not always that easy to understand. It's lots of actually priorities, lots of actions within this I would say subgroup. So that's pretty much for this one.
I was just going to say, not knowing the composition of the group, what is the problem with the composition? Why you're wanting to change it?
Composition is great. It's just we are willing to recruit more members, and that's what has been discussed. So that's pretty much it. But also we need key people to attend for the next ones, because the actions are requiring this. So that's pretty much the feedback.
Okay, and Anne-Marie?
Thanks, Brandon. Actually looking at the notes within the report, I did raise the issue with Peter at the Community Partnership team, where there was a comment with regards to concerns being raised about the Coalfield Regeneration Trust being involved in preparing action plans for communities. I wanted to know what those concerns were. So if anyone who was in attendance at that, from the list, we have the Northern Corridor Community Volunteers, Gartcosh Tenants and Residents Association, Stepson District Community Council, Glenboyd Neighbourhood House, and North Lanarkshire Council elected members. So could someone maybe give me a wee update on what those concerns were?
Was this for the last meeting or the previous one?
It's the ones that have came out in the minutes that were sent out. I can read it out to you if you would like me to.
I would need to check the minutes. These are the updates for the priorities. We were actually in actions taken, so they are not minutes, what I said.
Well, it is actions, and it's your notes at the side of the actions that stated that there was concerns raised about the participation of the Coalfield Regeneration Trust being involved in the preparation of action plans for communities. So I would like to know what those concerns are that were raised.
I'm just not really sure, to be honest with you. I would need to
Anyone else that was at the meeting, do they recall what the discussion was to be able to share an update?
Brandon, I've had my hand up a wee while there. Anne-Marie,
right, were you at the meeting, Isabel?
No, first of all, Anne-Marie, I can't enlighten you because I wasn't at the meeting.
All right.
The two subgroups, I would like to just point out, it's not reasonable to call a meeting within 1 or 2 working days to ask you to attend a meeting. And I contacted Camille to say, I'm sorry, I'll not be able to attend because the meeting was called at very short notice. So I was not able to go. But it was to facilitate a report to another meeting. So therefore, you know, it's absolutely ludicrous that you can't contribute to meetings. And the reason for the meeting being called at short notice is to report to another meeting, and we never get anything done. So Anne-Marie, I can't enlighten you to that fact. But having attended the meeting previously and looking at the minute, we're actually missing the elephant in the room. It's about communication and about relationships. And we're quite happy with the relationships that we have with the organisations within the Northern Corridor. I think we help each other, we respect each other, we communicate very well. What has not been addressed is the fact that the relationships and the communication with North Lanarkshire Council is inappropriate and is not working.
Isabel, can I come in just for a second? The reason for short notice was pretty much my colleague was off, and I was asked at short notice basically to prepare all this, and he's supposed to basically take over from me, but he never. He's still off, and we had to make a decision. Either we're gonna just, I don't know, cancel it for this time round, or just do it quickly. And basically my supervisor asked me to do what I can and pretty much provide this update. So that's the whole story.
I appreciate that, Camille, and I understand problems with staff shortages, etc. But the actual outcome is people who are maybe asked to be on it, give up time to be on it, and is interested in it. When you get that short notice for somebody else to get a briefing who isn't part of the meetings and who aren't part of the outcomes. And as I say, the elephant in the room is there is nothing said or done, and it's been raised 2 or 3 times now.
Yes, but to be fair, Isabel, I have sent you an email explaining the situation, plus ask you for feedback on email and ask you to give me times when you can meet me so we can do it one-to-one if you want to. So I was flexible as much as I could to get this information. But again, we had only a couple of days and I couldn't change the deadline for it.
Well, the frequency of the meeting is fairly minor. I think the major issue is relationships being cultivated in North Lanarkshire Council. And that has not been addressed inside that particular Lloyd. And I'd like to draw attention to that.
I've got a few hands up.
I can't help you with your inquiry.
Yeah, I've got a few hands up. So let's see if we can have some other voices. Teresa.
Hi, everyone. My apologies. I've been waiting since 6:30 trying to get into the meeting. I'm demented. Anyway, here I am now. I can't really comment on the meeting because sometimes getting the times of the meeting, far too late for people to attend, and I agree on that point that Isabel has brought up. In relation to concerns about coalfield regeneration, helping communities to put together action plans, in actual fact, it's the communities that put together the action plan, and the coalfield regeneration provide the funding. We do have a 5-year action plan, which is now completed. And without the help of coalfield generation to put that action plan together, we maybe would never have got to that point, basically. And I'm sure a lot of other mining communities are the same. I would like to really know what the concerns are there, because coalfield regeneration has really supported these mining communities now for the 20 years that I've been round the table. So I would really like to know what the actual concerns are within that.
Me too.
Brandon, can I potentially come in at this point, because I was in attendance?
Yes, Councillor Lennon, yes.
Thanks very much. I don't recall that conversation. I can stand corrected. The only attendees at that meeting were myself, Councillor McPake and Alice. That was the only people that were in attendance. Quite a lot of the concerns raised by Isabel were highlighted at that meeting, as was the relationship between the council, the Northern Corridor Community Board, and also aspects of officers' involvement within the subgroup and the council's response to it. So I've not seen the minute yet. I've not had the opportunity to glance over it tonight, but I'll do that just now. However, what I would say is many of the points that have been raised here were raised at that meeting. And in addition, I don't know where the Coalfields involvement in anything has been raised as a concern, because I certainly don't recall that.
Okay.
It is listed in the paperwork and the documents that's came out. So I would like some clarity on that information. So whoever's responsible, if they can maybe look into it and get back to us, that would be great. Thank you.
And Andrew McPherson. You've been
Thanks,
very
Brandon.
patient.
It's really just perhaps. No, it's okay. It's really just to echo the points that have been made previously. I think it would be a good suggestion to have these things scheduled in advance, maybe for 6 months worth of meetings, so people know them well in advance. Because this last meeting, I know my name was particularly mentioned about not attending, but we're dealing with a whole load of competing priorities at the moment. And if we get that short notice, it's very hard to try and squeeze in additional meetings. So I have attended all the others, so my intention is that I do want to attend these, but I think if we put a schedule of meetings in the calendars, I think that would make it much more readily accessible for people and make sure we get a better attendance.
Anne-Marie, you put your hand up again.
Yeah, sorry, Brandon. I would also like to just say that Cardown Community Meadow on several occasions now have made a request to participate in each and every subgroup, as and when we are available to do so. But I have not yet received invites for those subgroups. So if that can be attended to also, thank you.
My only comment as chair and as an individual within one of the community councils is that there is a raft of very many different meetings that come up, and quite simply there are there's just too many to be able to join, and I'm afraid I don't get to the majority of them. I just can't do it. So I'm not sure how this is going to be addressed, because there are a very small group of us really that come to these meetings, and we just haven't got the time to get to them all. So as much notice as possible, but certainly we need to find a way of rationalising these meetings to make them easier for people to attend and participate fully in.
Chair, can I come in for a second?
Yes, you can, Camille.
Just a minute ago, I've checked the minutes and information I have sent. There is nothing like this mentioned here, so I don't know what happened, and we'll clarify it. But certainly, this is new to me. Just like Councillor said, I can't find this here about the concerns for the Coalfield. Sorry, so I don't know.
Right. So Anne-Marie, you have the actual.
Yes, I have it in front of me right now. It's the Northern Corridor Community Board LOIP Priority Update. And it is under the heading of, give me a second. The group is tech doesn't work when you want it to, does it? So it is building local relationships, trust and communication.
Do you tell what page that's on? Because this is this 12-page document.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Right, hold on.
Chair, can I just say that we can catch up with Camille and we can look at that and get back to people if that's okay.
Yeah, so just to say, well, who actually produced this document that was circulated? That might give us some clue.
Chair, a number of documents were sent in, but they were all pulled into one document, so that there might have been an issue there in terms of copying and pasting, but we can certainly look into that and double check that, catch up with Camille, and we'll get back to you on that.
Okay. But obviously somewhere between obviously Camille and the production of that document, what we're saying is some wires have got crossed.
Yeah, it's just not in the minutes or information I've sent. I've just checked that. It's not coming from here, so from this end anyway. So must have been something.
But there is a document that's been circulated to the board
Yes,
that Anne Marie is.
I've been aware that, yeah, that's. Thank you.
Again, you're on, Camille, with social integration and inclusion.
Okay. Let me open this one. Okay, so when it comes to the work that's been done, again, similar story, different tab on the spreadsheet for mapping that we agreed to conduct on the meeting last year. This time around for the for organizations, social connections, and all the contact details plus social integration and activities across villages. What else? The concerns. Yeah. So the first concern was that the community has skills that they're willing to share, but there is no mechanism we couldn't identify to share those skills. We were talking about mentoring, befriending, confidence building that is in deficit. There's no system in place to pass existing skills into young generation. But also during this meeting, we have identified that Glenboig Neighborhood House had actually several ready solutions. So that was very positive that can be used or replicated. And we also agreed some actions, including contacting a variety of organizations which would hopefully support with some sort of satellite support. That would be a university, Stirling University, Centre for Lifelong Learning, Glasgow University Adult and Continuing Education, Glasgow School of Art, and Department of Printing, and New College Lanarkshire. And also we talked about picking an environmental projects within Glenboig. So that was very positive as well. Hopefully this time around there was no issues with some additional information that I don't have.
Well, again, hopefully your projects then bring people together, which is what we're trying to do with the social integration, I take it.
Yes. That's all from me. Thank you.
Teresa, you have your hand up.
Just a small point, Camille. We haven't been Glenboig Neighbourhood House for a long time. We're actually Glenboig Development Trust.
I know.
Be
It's just
referred to as that in the documents and different things.
old habits. That's my fault, probably. That's my fault.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have local partner updates. Do we have anybody from Police Scotland?
That's myself, Chair, Inspector Michael McCusker.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Basically, so I'm going to be the new Community Inspector for Cumbernauld, Kilsyth, Northern Corridor, etc. Susan Ray's just unfortunately gone off for 3 to 6 months. So I'm currently the CP Inspector for Airdrie and Coatbridge. I'm going to be covering Susan. I've not been given the agenda, unfortunately. I was quite a latecomer to this. However, Christine Boyle, the Assistant Community Partnership Manager, gave me a kind of rundown that you would like an update on what the new budget will look like for Police Scotland and the QG subdivision. So going forward, I'll be brutally honest with you, it doesn't look great. Lanarkshire Division, we obviously want to give as good a service as possible. Until now, we've gone through an unparalleled reform. We're running about 200 million less per annum than the 9 legacy forces were. And we've been asked to kind of go over a saving of about 2 billion by 2026. 86% of our budget is on staff, which is the same for most workplaces. The issue comes if we get a comparatively modest 5% pay award, as in was for the last financial year. If that's not factored into the next budget, it looks as if we're going to lose across the full of Police Scotland about 1,125 officers. So what that looks like, to give you a comparison, Q Division, which is this division as a whole, is 1,300 officers, so it's almost like losing a full division across Police Scotland. There's 250 officers in the Quebec Golf subdivision, which covers Airdrie, Coatbridge, Glenboig, Northern Corridor, Cumbernauld, etc. So we may need to look, being brutally honest, to withdraw some services going forward if the budget, which we don't have at this moment in time, to be fair, If it looks roughly the same as what we got for last year, I'm sure there'll be some additional funding, so we hope to go forward with that, but we won't know until probably a few weeks from now what that looks like, and I'll be able to provide an update to you at the next budget going forward. Some divisions have actually looked to expand their community policing teams. That's not something we're looking to do. We're looking to keep the exact same numbers as we are, to give the kind of updates that we do to the community. And we're actually going to do a restructure, which so the planning stage just now, it's going to be roughly the same amount of community officers, but we're taking in a flexible policing unit as well, which will cover disorder calls for the communities within QG division, which going forward will be better for us. Other than that, that's all we've got in budgets now, because I don't actually know the numbers. The other thing Christine had asked me to go over was Operation Moto X, the way that for the quad bikes. So firstly, thanks to all the community boards, of which this is a participant, we actually received our 2 quad bikes on Friday, and they were deployed in Airdrie over the weekend, because we're having to share them between the 3 offices. We have got 14 officers trained in their use. It's a 3-day course, and they are now currently sitting in the Cumbernauld office. They were deployed today within the subdivision at Cumbernauld. So if there's any issues, if you can ask you to contact my sergeant up there or myself, if we've got issues with off-road bikes and antisocial use of the roads up there as well. So they're now going to be deployed, which is outstanding going forward. And I assume you've got the contact details for community policing up at Cumbernauld. If not, I can put them in the chat for the kind of email addresses, etc. If anyone wants to update me on that. I've not actually taken up post yet. It'll be not till Monday.
Well, thank you for your report. We have in the past had a very good relationship with our local community policing, and they do attend our local community council meetings and are always keeping in contact with us. So we would like to hope that we can maintain that. And it's good that you've got your quad bikes.
Yeah, finally, it's taking some time. They're about 2 months overdue for us up here. The Wisha and Bells Hill got theirs a few weeks ago, but that's all good to go. So we'll get. I've also asked the sergeants to contact all local councillors to get them into the office and have a look around the quad bikes as well. So you'll receive an email quite shortly from Greg McHale to come in and do a kind of tour.
Right. Anne-Marie, you've got your hand up.
First of all, I'd like to say you're welcome. Your quad bikes are now in situation in Cumbernauld due to the activities that have been happening in Cardown Community Meadow. For weeks on end, our residents have been calling the 101 line with regards to the disturbance and the destruction of our open green spaces by off-road motor vehicles. Last week, we contacted the Community Police Office, Cumbernauld Police Station, tried to get the superintendent with regards to this activity that was going on, made inquiries about the new units and where they in situ, and the officers at Cumbernauld had absolutely no knowledge about these. That was the response that was given to us over the telephone. Basically, our community police officer had annual leave booked. He put that aside to actually go and do the training. And then today we had a phone call to say that those vehicles would be in situ today to try and address the issue. The problem being that the issues actually occur over the weekends, especially on a Sunday when we have nature activities going out in those open green spaces with ASN kids in attendance who are being distressed by this activity. So the only offer of assistance was for these bikes to attend today and possibly tomorrow, which is not really helpful to an issue that's actually happening over the weekends. So we really need to look at being able to combat that when it's actually happening, when you're being given intel with regards to where the gathering points are, where they're going, what's happening. Some of it's just really not acceptable and we expect better. Thank you.
No, absolutely. If I can respond to that.
Yes.
Yeah, so going forward, we're going to train more officers in the use of them, and we also have use of the quad bikes at Wisha and Motherwell as well. So we'll look at the areas that Anne-Marie's put forward, and I'll get an action plan put in place for that. The issues arise, we're having to deal with across the full division. It's not just for Cumbernauld. So we've got competing demands across the entire division, as you can imagine. So, but as she has brought it up just now, I will make sure I speak to Greg on Monday and we'll get something in place for over the weekends going forward. Anne-Marie, is there a time specifically? Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Our group go out on a Sunday from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m, but they're literally, the noise is starting from probably about 11 a.m. and upwards, so they can be there till late evening.
No problem at all. I'll get in contact with yourself or Greg will, and we'll get something in place for that.
Appreciate that.
As of Monday, I'll deal with that for you.
Thank you.
Claire Williams.
Thanks, Brandon. Just on the back of what Anne-Marie was saying, that the guys are entering with their quad bikes from Grathamlock. So I'd actually sent an email to East Glasgow Police Office to ask for some cross-border work on this. Because obviously it's a bit like the Dukes of Hazzard, you know, if they go over the Glasgow border, it comes out with your territory. So it would be really useful if the two divisions could work on that, because they're coming in from the East End. They're not, I was told they're not actually always accessing from Cardowen.
No problem. I'll speak to Jerry Bryceland's the community inspector over there, so I'll send him an email once we finish the meetings tonight, and we can try and arrange something for him to get in contact with you, because we've also got off-road two-wheeled bikes from Wishaw that can also deploy. So cross-border wise, it shouldn't be an issue. It's not like the kind of Mexican border for us. We can go cross-border, and we'll deal with that as well for you if it's from Grathamlock.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else with any questions? Okay. Gary from Scottish Fire, you're on.
Thanks, Brandon. Firstly, just a quick introduction. A bit like Michael, I've just actually, due to a restructure in Lanarkshire area, I've taken over as station commander for Cumbernauld, and Steps and Coalside. So I'll be the point of contact now for all three of the stations. Now, this is my first board meeting, so I'm glad you have got me here tonight, so that's appreciated. In terms of our figures, I've submitted my paper. The figures are pretty much the same for deliberately setting fires. Thankfully, there's not a real increase in anything in relation to fire casualties, and it's all quite much in a muchness. There's not really that much to report on it. But what I would say is, in terms of recruitment in the on-call stations, so such as Steps and Coalside, and pretty much the Lanarkshire area as a whole, we are struggling to get people in. So we are trying to put that out in social media and other ways of trying to entice people to get in contact with us. We've also put it on our own notice board to get in contact directly with Lanarkshire area admin. So what my plan would be tonight is to share that email address. If you could put it out there, that, you know, in all the Lanarkshire area as a whole, we're looking to try and get more people through the door who would be suitable for the fire service. If I can share that email with you.
Yes, that would be good.
And that's really all I've got for you, Chair, to be quite honest.
No, that's very good. I mean, to be honest, you know, is that what we would like? Not to have much from your particular patch, so to speak.
No, well, it's great that I've came here tonight and I've got Michael, and I'll probably make myself known to Michael, and we'll probably have a good working relationship working within the same area and try and drive down antisocial behaviour and all the issues that probably the Fire Scotland and Police Scotland get involved with secondary fires, etc. And just having that good communication link. But yeah, absolutely. You probably don't want much from me as long as we can keep the figures down with the secondary fires, and then I would like to think we're doing our job right and we're communicating with youths and all our other partners. So aye, absolutely.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody for Gary? We'll move on to community matters. The very first point on community matters relates to an issue that, in fact, if we go back even up to a year, was raised on this board, and it got to a point where at the last board meeting, we actually asked for a special meeting to be convened to address this particular matter. For whatever reason, we've not had that special meeting. but I believe Andrew has he put forward a document which was circulated well ahead of this meeting, and he's going to field the questions that will probably have arisen from that paper on behalf of NLC and the education team, because he said he would take that on board on our behalf, really. So I would, first of all, before everybody lays into him, I would thank Andrew for his work in getting this information, but I do think it does have some questions behind it. Do you want to pick up on it?
I'm fearing the worst now, Brandon, by what you just said there, but never mind. No, listen, I think there have been some issues about a lack of response from the council. I think that was, and I sit on the subgroup for building local relationships, so I took it upon myself really to get the information that was really required from a variety of services within the council. So I put together after all the responses came in, I put together a fairly lengthy document, I would say. I think there's about 15, 16 separate questions there. Some came from the Northern Corridor Community Board, some came from the actual forum itself as well, but just to sort of put everything in one place, I thought would probably make sense. There was 3 specific questions, I think, which came from the board, which is about capacity of the schools in Northern Corridor area. There was one to do with particularly about what was happening with the Gartcosh school, and also there was about the boundary requirements within the Ward 5 schools. So hopefully within that document they've all been sort of comprehensively answered, particularly that they will now be the good news, but the Gartcosh school site has now been announced, so there will be a statutory consultation process for all affected people there, so there'll be a mechanism which will allow that to happen. Similarly, and this is through no fault of North Lanarkshire Council, that there has been boundary changes, not of our making, but of others. So that has caused problems in the area. There's no two ways about that. But as a result of that, the anticipation of the council will now take forward a statutory consultation on that very matter, which again will allow a forum for that to be discussed in. And I think the other issue which was raised up was capacity, and I think there was some concern about we're not really planning ahead for in terms of schools. So I think hopefully the table that's presented there will provide you with that assurance that that is something that the council is doing. Again, we cannot control fully the houses that are built within our area. As you know, the majority of houses that have been built recently have been potentially against what the council's recommendation has been, but we have to react to that when that happens. So that's really all I think I'll say, Brandon. I know a special board meeting was asked for, but I think for a number of reasons, it's not really the position here of the board. I think if there's a number of people on the board that have no interest in the actual school issue, if you like, there's other partners here which we wouldn't be involved. And also the council itself is now setting up statutory consultation processes to deal with the very things that we wanted the special board meeting to have, and I don't think that would add any value. I think there's going to be a specific forum for that to be discussed in. Similar to the Steps Primary School issue, there's that specific groups now being set up to deal with that, and there's monthly updates about what's happening within that area as well. So I think we are addressing and we are reflecting what's coming back from the board. We are putting specific things in place which will address those points. And what we have to remember as well, that out of the 6 Lloyd priorities that the board has, education was not one of them, school provision was not one of them. So I'm quite happy if that has to change in the future and we can change that. But I think as a board, we have made the decision to concentrate on these 6 priorities. And that's
yes, my comments, the board's priority was children and young people, which of course education is part of the issue.
Okay. And that's me, Brandon. So I'm happy to take any questions. You'll be able to
Alison
answer.
Reid, you had your hand up very quickly.
Hi there. Hopefully you can all hear me. Sorry, I've got a very snuffly 3-month-old baby in my arms, which is also why I don't have my video camera on just now, because multitasking can only go so far. So if you do struggle to hear me, just please let me know and I'll try and get her down somewhere. So just for those who don't know me on this call, I've spoken to quite a few members previously. I am one of the Dunlop residents who is going to be affected and has been in long discussions with North Lanarkshire Council about getting our catchment boundary resolved after we were moved over to be North Lanarkshire residents since 2019. I represent basically a large group of parents that have been campaigning for this to try and get it moved on, because just for context, I moved here in 2017. My son was not even born when I moved here. He started primary 1 this year, and we still couldn't go through the normal enrolment process that all other North Lanarkshire residents can. So this has been quite a long issue. Before I go into a couple of questions that I would like Mr. McPherson, or sorry, Councillor McPherson, to answer, I would like to just maybe provide some very brief feedback about our experience, because I really think there's a lot of learning points for North Lanarkshire Council about this. Firstly, when we've had the few meetings we've had with officials, which we've been lucky to have through access through the local councillors gaining it, I think to constantly put back to residents that North Lanarkshire Council did not want us to join the area and that was our fault and our option, and basically we had to live with it, is not a great way to treat your residents. It's not a great way to basically say, we didn't want you there, but you've came anyway. And I just think maybe it was intentional, unintentional use of language, but it really should be assessed as to how this has been put across, because again, a lot of us didn't buy the houses off the plots. You know, we weren't here at the very start of it. We've inherited this, and it's been ongoing for so long that there are now people who are second, third owners of the house that have inherited this problem. So to consistently put back as your very lengthy first point about the process to transfer us over and the rejection by North Lanarkshire Council and how it went to appeal, we know the history. The history doesn't change anything. What we were always looking for is how to move forward. And just a point of reflection back from North Lanarkshire Council is the process and the experience has really been quite tiresome and really not enjoyable for people who are contributing to North Lanarkshire community, are contributing council tax to the area and just want to be part of the community. And I really think that's a point of reflection and hopefully learning, so that nobody else has to go through this experience with North Lanarkshire Council. The questions I was wanting to ask is that we've obviously seen the document for our boundary to be changed is going to the Education Committee next week. It's a very big point of relief for a lot of the parents here that it's finally actually moving forward. One area of concern that we had is obviously there's a list of stakeholders that will be involved in the consultation, but there's nowhere obvious where those of us who live within the Dunlop streets qualify as stakeholders unless we have a child that is due to attend school in the next 2 years. Now, I think given the journey that we've been on, the communication we've been on, the amount of discussions that we've had, I think there would be a lot of residents who would maybe want to share as part of the consultation as to why this is important to get the boundary changed, because, you know, like my position, I've got a child in primary 1, I've got a 3-month-old. I don't fall in either of those brackets, but I'm still going to have to register my second child for school at some point. And there's no way that I fall into any of the stakeholder categories. So it was a point of feedback, first of all, that the residents seem to be the glaring omission from the stakeholders in this consultation process. I think the other thing that we were wanting to clarify, because again, there's a lot of parents on our group that are asking this, that are going through the enrolment process right now, is that obviously we've seen the timetable, we've seen that should it all be approved, it would go to Final Education Committee in September, which means none of this will be in place for the school year starting. Now, we've got people going through the enrolment process just now. Just very quickly, for those who don't know, we have to register in Glasgow schools. We then have to put a placing request in to local schools and wait to see if we can get a place. Now, Christen has been so over capacity that even though we will be zoned to Christen, if we apply to Christen right now, we get rejected because they're so over capacity. So a lot of our parents end up sending them to maybe Auchinlock, Steps, St Joseph's, the roundabouts, because we basically have to make a decision as to where we can get our children in. Now, with Christen this year, parents are asking, well, if we know the new school is going to be open, I'm expecting to be rejected to start with. But if I appeal that, is the appeal decision going to be based on the current school capacity, which is over capacity, or the new school, which should be open in August, should have room for the children, and therefore should be able to accommodate the children that are starting in primary 1 So as I say, it's the omission from how the Dunlop residents can take part and what happens with this year admissions is what we're looking for.
Thank you. Isabel Kelly.
Hi.
Brandon, sorry. Brandon.
Yes, Andrew.
Can I, sorry, Brandon. Yeah, sorry, just sorry, Isabel, just to cut across you there. It's just I'm conscious that if there's a number of hands up and a list of questions here, and it's just I just want to make sure that we cover off. Is that okay, Brandon? Rather than
okay, do you want to come back then on Alison's points?
Yeah, and this isn't going to be great because I obviously I'm not from an education background, Alison. I apologise for that, and also I'm not a counsellor, so just in case you think you're speaking to a elected member, I'm not. I'm just.
Sorry, I thought that was earlier, but apologies, no worries.
No, it's quite all right. So you're perfectly right, and I'm sorry if the language that I used there, but we didn't, your feelings if you're not wanted. That's simply not the case. Obviously, you're a resident of North Lanarkshire, and you're as equal as everyone else. But there is a reality to it.
So that everybody knows, it's not just yourself. This has been the language that has been consistently used throughout 2 years of discussions. That every time we even start the process, we're given a lengthy paragraph in the background of it, which we're all too well aware. But it's not a great starting point for trying to have positive discussions about how to move forward.
Okay, I think there is a reality to this, that normally when we have large housing estates that are built, then there comes with that funding to local authority and to ensure that we actually deliver the services that then brings. And what's happened here is actually that has been omitted. So that's obviously been an issue for the council, and that's probably the length of time it's taken. In terms of Alison, I'll put my email address in the chat bar. So if you could actually forward on your questions specifically, because I'll get someone in education to answer them fully rather than myself. But my guess is that the stakeholder the consultation process is a statutory one. Now, I don't know whether there's defined who is a stakeholder, who is not a stakeholder. That's something that might be defined in statute. So that's something I would have to get confirmed for you. And also in terms of the consultation process, it may well be that there has to be a statutory length of the consultation process, which is why it will take up to September. So that's something that I would need to check before giving you an answer to that, Alison. I'm sorry, I can't give you a definitive on that.
Thank you.
Isabel.
Andrew, not to pick a fight with you, but the note that's been circulated with the board papers, this is actually a rehash and has emanated from Fulton McGregor's office. Alice Morton made an appointment with Fulton McGregor and raised some issues, and I had made an appointment with Fulton McGregor raising some issues on education and on planning. And what has happened is those two conversations were put forward to North Lanarkshire Council, and these were separate issues to be taken up with Fulton McGregor on our behalf with the council, and we got those printed out. Now, we specifically asked for meetings face-to-face with planning and with education. We want to satisfy ourselves that education and planning both speak to each other and are actually active with a plan that covers the house building and the cumulative house building that is going on in the Northern Corridor that addresses school placements. We wanted to address planning, because planning, we have heard that this has been put upon North Lanarkshire. Now, the process for coming to what houses are being built in particular areas happen in Clyde Plan and the Glasgow and Clyde Valley area. And it's 8 district councils. And there's representatives from the council, North Lanarkshire Council, go there. And you sit there and you discuss the quota of houses. and North Lanarkshire Council put forward the quota of houses. There's no point now. We are more familiar with the planning process, that we know how the local development plan actually comes to an end and how this land is carved up for housing. And it comes from the Scottish Government saying how many houses have to be built, and then each council putting a bid in for those houses. Now, North Lanarkshire has something like 22,000 houses. Over 5,000 houses are being built in our area. Now, we're sitting around about 27,500 people by the last census. When you look at Motherwell, it's 32 that sits, and these are North Lanarkshire's figures, not ours. And in Wishaw, it's 30,000. And when you look at the Northern Corridor, we do not come up to standard in terms of amenities and infrastructure matching Motherwell or Wishaw. And these are the direct issues that we want to take up face to face with council officers. Now, we hear the phrase very often, oh, it's unfair, it's not right. But what actual people mean in the street is this is social injustice directed to the people of the Northern Corridor, the 5 or 6 villages around. We are experiencing social injustice, and it's very much like it's good enough for them, they can just accept it. Consultation does not take place. You decide on a plan, and then you ask us to comment on your plan. And if you don't like our solutions, you carry on with the plan. Now, it's got to stop. And we have asked repeatedly to meet. Now, we had planning who had the cheek and audacity, along with the education and Charles McCabe, to give us, at the last board meeting, the same presentation that he put forward in 2018. The exact same presentation. That was an hour of my life I'll never get back again. And I'm sitting there listening to the same story that was pitched in 2018, and still no school. The school is currently running at 125% occupancy. And by the time we get to 25, it'll be running at 180% in occupancy. Again, your own figures that you're putting in the consultation for the 1st of March. No, our figures, we're not dreaming them up. And the attainment level of that school is absolutely deplorable. It has went into the ground, and it's purely because those pupils have had to suffer what they've had to suffer in that school. Now, enough is enough, Andrew. We want this to go back to the council, and we want a meeting with planning. We want a document that marries what is going on in house building and what is going on with planning, and that they talk to each other, and we can be assured that when you build a school, that school is getting built. And can I also say, we've got this community hub phrase, and basically we're getting told there's a community hub at Gartcosh. It comprises of a school, assisted learning places, and preschool. That is not a community hub. We presented a community hub questionnaire that we had over 500 residents, and 234 of them were young people who contributed to that survey. We handed it into North Lanarkshire. North Lanarkshire is yet to even acknowledge they received it. And it gave the residents their perspective and what they looked at. We have no park. We have no playing fields. We have no indoor sports. We have no external sports. We have nothing. And we're now looking at, with the consultation that's round at the club getting held today, something like 1,600 houses being built round that loch. And the phase 2 site is a contingency site It was meant to be only used when all sites were built out. And they'll tell us in the development plan that there's only 4,000 houses, 4,000 and odd houses getting built, because they put Glenboig into Coatbridge. But it's part of the Northern Corridor and has been for a number of years. Now, all these discrepancies have to be addressed. And we can only do that when we meet them face to face. We gave the council 18 months ago a second site. We went to developers and the developer said they would give us the land for the school and give the community land for to build a community centre. We are still looking at a one option site. They never even considered the second site a second site. And it does not matter who we speak to or what we do. North Lanarkshire Council railroads us and just keeps going on and on and on, and will not change direction no matter what the residents say. They could have had their houses, they could have had them quicker. There is not even a mix of housing. They're socially cleansing the area by producing houses that are 3, 4, 5 and now £600,000. Young couples coming to this area are young couples born in this area who want to live here and happen to be on low salaries will never be able to live in this area because there is no housing mix sufficient. And the 25% in affordable housing has been cut to 20%, and then they'll tell us Gap Cosh don't need it. The new site that's getting built across the road should hold 76 affordable houses, and they're only building 42 and taking away the rest of them as commuted sums to build in another area. The community growth area was supposed to be here with over £60 million for roads under City Deal, and that made that viable. They took the money for the City Deal and gave it to Motherwell, and we've still not had the roads improved. Now, the people in this area are now clocking up how much additional community tax they've generated, how much money has come in roof tax for the developers, and it is millions. And this community has not got one iota. We don't even have a pavement between Glenboig and Gap Cosh on the Johnston Road, never mind an amenity, or an infrastructure that anybody could point to. And this can only be addressed by the council meeting with residents in the Northern Corridor to address these issues. So I want to know, why do these officers have the power to turn around and say they are not meeting residents? If we say this is a community board and we demand your presence and we demand here is a list of questions and you will come with answers, why they can turn around and say they are not coming? It is unacceptable. And that harps back to the LOIP about communication and working together. There is no working together. We have now had to go to the Scottish office and go to ministers to say what is going on with North Lanarkshire Council, because we cannot, under the administration, and the administration that's been here for years, been able to address any of the issues. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you, Isabel. You've made your point very strongly. I think there's a lot in there, and it's probably a bit much to ask Andrew to respond to them all in one go. I don't know, how do you feel? Do you want to just make any general response to that, Andrew?
I'd just like to say, if there's a specific meeting you want with planning, Isabel, that's fine. Pass the request to myself and I'll pass it on to the correct service, and then they'll come back to you and give that response, Isabel. It's not a problem for me.
I think the whole point Isabel's raising there, Andrew, is the fact that we as the board have asked for people to come, and they have basically point blank refused. So you've ended up taking this, and you know, you did volunteer yourself, and unfortunately you're getting the wrath of the fact these people have failed to actually come and talk with the community, and this issue is still unresolved.
Okay, so I think to be fair, they haven't. Point like me, the planning did appear at the board, and we did provide a presentation. I accept your point, Isabel, that it's not the presentation that you were expecting or indeed wanted, but certainly if there's a demand to meet an individual service, I'm more than happy to pass that on and ask for them to respond to you directly on that. It's not a problem at all, and that just not just for you to meet them, Isabel. Obviously, I appreciate there's a collective that would like to meet.
Yeah, this isn't a one-man band. This is a collective. There are numerous organisations within the Northern Corridor. We meet at the forum. Everybody feels the same. We now need to start getting assurances that actually they can do their job, because up until now they have abandoned the master plan. They have abandoned any planning negotiations with builders in favour of what can get a house up. And they have not paid attention to what the community. We understand people need new houses. We understand that people maybe want to come to the area. The average house price, again by North Lanarkshire, is £187,000. All North Lanarkshire are interested in is attracting people from outside the area, and Gartcosh and Glenboig and the other villages have to be the cash cow to support the change in the demographics. And we have to take all the damage. If we wanted to live in a town centre, the other thing they can't comprehend, we don't have any Highland and Island policies here that can safeguard us. But the people around this table have chosen to live in a village setting. And if we don't have a town centre, North Lanarkshire Council, through policy, will not accommodate the villages. It is, you have to be served by a town centre. We have to fight tooth and nail to keep this board. But anything that's done, it's done in the name of town centres and mass population. And that's fine as well. We know you have to look after the masses, but there is never any tweaking of the rules or bending of the rules slightly to accommodate village life. Everything is for the town centres, and if it works in the mass population, then I'll have to work with the villages. And unfortunately, we are sitting and having rural services without the rural policies to back it up. And that's we've already discussed the bus services and the transport, and that's what it's like. At least in the Highlands and Islands, they must produce the transport requirements. But we don't sit in the Highlands and Islands, and we don't have those policies to back us up. So we've got to take whatever first bus dishes out. We can't even communicate with each other through travel. Each of the villages, never mind to the wider North Lanarkshire network.
Can we have some different voices? Can we give some other people a chance? Lorraine Kerr.
Hi, thanks, Chair. I'm the chair of Steps Primary Parent Council, and I think I've attended the board before. And I would just echo a lot of what Isabel said, which is completely the case in Steps, and as you highlighted across all of the villages in the Northern Corridor. So I'll not repeat all the points that Isabel's raised, but one specific thing I had, Andrew, see in response to question 4, which in your paper, which is why has NLC not made available its forward plan or infrastructure requirements for the delivery of education at Steps Primary School? As you know, at Steps Primary, we've had ongoing problems and issues with regards to overcrowding, etc., for a number of years, which has now obviously been addressed partially with some new additional classrooms, but we're nowhere near the conclusion of this. And I need to disagree with the wording that you've contained in your answer here, which is to quote, officers, over the years, officers from across the council have consistently engaged with appropriate stakeholders at the appropriate time, sharing information, and when appropriate, seeking views Updates were provided regularly throughout the remediation and decant process at Steps Primary School, and education colleagues also met with representatives from the Parent Council at key points in the process. While there has been communication, it certainly hasn't been consistent, and it certainly hasn't been at appropriate times. It's certainly been we as Steps Primary Parent Council in alongside Steps Community and District Council pushing for the communications. It's certainly not been two-way, Andrew, and it's felt like, much again like what Alison mentioned with regards to the catchment, it does feel like a difficult challenge to try and engage, and I don't think that wording is a fair reflection on the experience that the parents at Steps Primary have had. So I just want that noted, because we would disagree with that wording.
Okay.
Alice Morton.
Thank you, Brandon. I would reiterate all of the previous comments that have been made, and for those of you that have heard me speak before, you know my views and my opinions on this. My view is, Andrew, unfortunately, a serious mistake has been made here. The chair of this community board asked for a special meeting to discuss planning and education. The chair of this community board did not ask for a written response, and it has been totally inappropriate to approach this in this manner. I have to say that the Ward 5 and Ward 6 councillors are aware of the disquiet, the anger, the disappointment and the frustration that exists across the communities of the Northern Corridor. And the well-being of these communities is being ignored. Now, there are various questions that I would like to ask, and Isabel is correct. Many of those questions were composed by me in isolation, and I studied the West Lothian document regarding the pacing and the appropriateness of education, organisation and educational infrastructure in tandem with house building. That is not happening across the Northern Corridor. This is not new news. This is old news. Now, we are told, moving on to Brandon's request, we are told, we are not convinced that the board is a mechanism for communities to gain information, to be heard. This is one further example where the board the chair of this community board made a request for a special meeting and it was refused. One question I would like to know was, who took that decision to refuse this special meeting and the rationale for refusal of this special meeting? Now, I would engage with Brandon to decide how this should be progressed and escalated, because this is of serious concerns to everyone who is sitting here this evening. And once again, I will reiterate, and I hope I do this on behalf of all those in our community sitting here tonight. We again, via our chair, Brandon Williams, we are requesting an in-person meeting with planning and education regarding the villages of the Northern Corridor in terms of the housing overdevelopment that is taking place in our villages. And my last statement is, Isabel correctly reiterated that the houses that are being built here are not for those on a particular wage across the Northern Corridor. Those at Gateside Farm are hitting £600,000 and almost £500,000. So we have millionaires coming to live in Steps. So I hope the meeting will be in concord with me and you will agree that through our chair, Brandon Williams, we once again ask him to contact North Lanarkshire Council for a special board meeting. Thank you.
Brandon, could I just come in there? Is it? Because I think it was a
yes.
specific question.
Yes.
There was a specific. So there's a wee bit of a delay my side. I'm having connection problems. And I actually thought I was going to get kicked off there, and I thought you might have thought I'd ran away, but I'm not. I genuinely get connection problems. So yeah, there was a particular answer there just about who actually made the decision not to have the meeting. And I have to say it was a collective decision by the people that were involved in preparing this paper, because I think the specific questions that came from the board to deal with the realignment of the boundaries for Ward 5 schools, that's now will be subject to a statutory consultation. So there will be a full consultation exercise undertaken with regards to that. There was a specific issue about Gartcosh Primary School, the position of it. Obviously, events have taken over since those questions were asked. And we now have the site for Gartcosh Primary School, which will again be subject to a statutory consultation exercise. So there'll be a full consultation exercise with the public as well. And the last thing was just about the capacity of the schools in the area, and we provided full details on that. So I think the decision was taken, well, these matters are being discussed at another location and will allow people to make full representation on that. And so there didn't appear to be any specific need for a board meeting which would simply replicate that process, and indeed would be maybe even be counterproductive to the actual process itself. But again, to your point, Alison, I do accept that there is a heck of a lot of house building within the Northern Corridor. 100% agree with that. You can't deny that. Some of that is against the council's wishes, as you well know, that a lot of these are taken to appeal, and it's the Scottish Government that introduces the houses rather than ourselves. But we are still doing affordable housing. I think there's 30 affordable homes going in Gateside Farm in Steps, and we've got 21 new affordable homes going in Lindsay Beg Road in Christon. All of these will be ready in 2023, in the spring of 2023. So I accept that there's large houses getting built that are maybe out with the reach of most people living within the area, but we are committed to delivering affordable housing within the same area.
Thank you. Can we have another voice? John Harrow.
Hello, can everyone hear me? It's my first time doing this type of thing, so could you let me know if I'm getting through here?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I totally echo what Alice and Isabel have said. I'm a resident of Gartcosh, 4th generation families here. And I've been upset and annoyed and frustrated by a lot of council decisions and things that's happened in the village, but none more so than yesterday morning. And I can only describe myself as being absolutely incandescent with rage when I watched the Memorial Park facilities at the swing park in Gartcosh being still sawed and cut down and carried away as scrap. This was a memorial park that was given to the village by the Steelworks after the war and was maintained by the council up until NLC made a decision last year that they weren't going to cut the grass anymore, and it kind of went into a state of disrepair. When I confronted the guys that were working there, and they told us it was Tata Steel because they still owned the land, and Tata Steel said it was becoming a liability issue, so therefore, understandably, they decided to take the facilities away. The grass wasn't getting cut, but the local community were still going out and doing their bit and cutting round about the apparatus so the kids could still use it. The council still cut the grass at the front of the memorial park where the war memorial is. But I just really want to bring to the attention here to some other people that might not know. We've been informed, well, the community kind of know that the council were offered that park from Tata Steel apparently for £1. Now, if there's no truth in this, someone tell me that there's no truth in this. But if that was the case, why didn't the council take it? But the thing that gets me, the council disowned this piece of land. The council disowned this piece of land. Sorry for that interruption there. But they maintained it. They had maintained that land for 40 years. They'd cut the grass, they'd painted the swings, they put new soft play bits in, they put new apparatus on. But when it came to an issue of cutting the grass for not an awful lot of money, I would have thought, the park was let go. What's going to happen to the park? Can anyone tell me what's happened to the park? Now, I know there's moves afoot, But I want to know, why was the council maintaining it? There was money made available. Councillor McLaren years ago got money made available to sort the drainage situation out there. But what has happened to it? Why did it go? And why was this kind of fly-by-night thing that happened yesterday that they just came and cut the apparatus down? I'm looking at my back window now. There was kids come up to it today when the sun was out. There's nothing there. They're all looking about in disarray. Gartcosh is a village, and I'm fourth generation here. Gartcosh as a village has been raped. No ifs or buts, it has been raped. That's not an overstrengthened word. It has been raped. We have no facilities. Everything we have round about is all our green space is disappearing. Can I ask this issue to be addressed? It's an echo what Isabel says and Alice said. Wards 5 and 6, with the forgotten part of North Lanarkshire, with such an annex. It's a neglect that borders on it, looks almost like hatred towards us. I don't know what we've done to upset people. I don't know why we're left out. I don't know why we don't get chose for new hospitals, because we've the best facilities and the best infrastructure for it. I can't understand why we're being starved. Can somebody tell me, can someone sit down and address some of the stuff that Alice and Isabel are talking about? But as for that swing park going yesterday, you've not heard the end of this as far, because it is really ridiculous what happened there. The biggest open area gifted to the council, and they wouldn't take it for a quid. I reckon if they got it for a quid and they could develop on it, they would attain it for a quid. £1 apparently. Can anyone enlighten me on that? Thank you.
Thank you, John. Councillor Lennon, you've had your hand up for quite a while.
Thanks very much, Brandon. To reiterate some of the points that are being made here, I don't find it being unreasonable a request for a special meeting to be held and for officers to come along and give a full and frank explanation to why we are where we are. Since the inception of the Northern Corridor Community Board, every single meeting I've attended, Gartcosh and other villages have always been raised as areas of concern. So this isn't news to anybody at this evening's meeting. I think that the concerns that are being shared this evening are actually kind of an echo chamber at every single meeting that's been held. And I fully appreciate local residents' frustrations in this because, again, ultimately the council's imposing policies and making decisions, whether it be budgetary terms or policy terms for the people of Gartcosh and the Northern Corridor. And yet they're not prepared to stand in front of the local communities and answer their decisions. I think that's quite shocking. Now, if we go all the way back to its previous incarnation of the LOIPs, and even further back than that still, planning's never been allowed to be discussed at any of these meetings, and I'm kind of concerned there seems to be a repetitive pattern in these processes. Now, to reiterate and regurgitate some of Isabel's points here, Gartcosh alone, along with Moodiesburn and Glenboig, generate roughly about £10 million per year in council tax receipt. That was figures that I had received about 6 months ago. Now, obviously, we've had a number of new bills that have come in since then, so I would imagine that's increasing. What are we getting in return for investment in infrastructure or amenities? We're getting absolutely hee-haw. Now, I take on board Andrew's points that he raises that the Scottish Government, perhaps through the reporter, sometimes overturns decisions. But still an obligation here at a planning level to make sure that infrastructure and amenities are coming in to grow with the sort of capacity of our villages. And that's not been done today. There is health inequality, there is amenity inequality, there's various other things, even as close as Christen. There is more amenity in Christen than there is in Gartcosh, yet the population is probably surpassing that at the moment. If we look at Moodiesburn, that was never part of a CGA, but however, what we're now seeing is increased house building happening in Moodiesburn that doesn't look as if it's going to stop at any point. When does enough become enough? Now, the point that I would raise here, Brandon, is if you're refused again in relation to a meeting, I'm happy to hold a public meeting because I think it's about time that council officers stand accountable to the people, ultimately the same as the elected members, and actually be answerable to the questions that are being raised. Because ultimately, if it's a case that the community board can't host that, I'm sure myself and the other councillors at the request local residents can arrange for that to take place. And whether it be a town hall style meeting or whatever it may be, that can be discussed at a later date. But I do think the new enough is enough. And John O'Hara, just to answer your point, it was me actually negotiated with Tata Steel solicitors for the Memorial Park to be transferred over to the council for £1. However, the administration made the decision that the budget would no longer adopt land. So Nicole Patterson was the officer at the time, flat out refused any opportunity for the Memorial Park to come into council ownership, which again, disappointing and absolute a sad indictment in North Lanarkshire.
Thank you. I think the point that people make about calling a special board meeting is the fact that the board is the official route through which the council is communicating to the community, and it's all about community empowerment and community engagement. So calling a separate town hall style meeting, it doesn't fall within that scope.
Brandon, and in fairness, if you could let me come back with a supplementary then. Again, Brandon, if these official groups that are all recognised under the community board structure are being refused, then ultimately the council has no other option but to be answerable to the people that's currently paying its council tax.
Yes.
Can I come in, Brandon? If people can come through me, if there's a request to meet planning, if there's a request to meet education for a specific issue, then please pass it through to myself, whether that's an elected member, whether it's a member of the community, then I will definitely channel that through to the correct service, and I will get that response for you, and then you can make a decision from there. If that's okay.
I think, Andrew, it is not the fact that you get the response for us. It's the fact that these people don't wish to meet with us.
No, the response will come from them, and then that will obviously inform you as to whether they're willing to meet or not, and then obviously they can then take a decision based on that.
We need to keep this moving. I've got so many hands up. John McLaren, you've been very, very, very patient.
Very patient. Right, Brandon, I'm going to be quick. I've got 3 people here, and it's just to say congratulations to Alison Reid, because she's waited a long time for this coming through. It's been roughly 3 years, I think, Alison, since we first started on this project, and hopefully when it goes through education next week and then goes through consultation, everything will be sort of far better off for the children estates in Cardown for that sort of area. The other one, Isabel Kelly. Isabel, I went round to that consultation today. Absolutely shocking what they're trying to do in Mount Ellen. 1,500 houses. Now that could be 3,000 kids trying to get into our schools. And the road that they're going to take off of Drumcavell Road, go around the back of the loch and come out at the new houses on the Johnston Road. Absolutely shocking. They want to take a road across the wetlands, which I pointed out to the boy. All he's going to do is the wetlands will just keep swallowing up his road. That'll never happen because of the layout of that land there. The other thing they're doing on the north side of Johnson Loch, not on the east side, which have already polluted Johnson Loch, they have started digging it in the field next to Harry Tweed's house. All the surface water is going to run down off that field into the loch and kill every fish in the loch. The fishing club today, I'd contacted them on Tuesday, and there'd been quite a big representation from the fishing club down near Keenan Yeehaw today. So hopefully we can get something sorted with that as well. And the last one, you'll be glad to hear, is for Alice Morton. Alice, it's just to guide me and keep me right on this. I actually thought you were a millionaire. Right,
Thank you for that light-hearted ending, John. Diane Delaney. I've lost you or can't hear you, Diane.
Is that better? Sorry, I think I was on mute.
Yes, thank you.
I'll try and be quick as well. I wanted to come back in on point 4 of the questions from the Northern Corridor. I'm also from STEP's Parent Council, but I want my contribution to be heard also just as an individual and as a parent too. I just wanted to just really echo in support of everything that's been said so far by Lorraine Kerr and Isabel and Alice Morton, and really absolutely exacerbated by the lack of representation and support from Councillor McLaren taking these issues forward. I'm really disappointed that he didn't even mention anything we've said so far in this discussion. And it's all very well to make a joke about who's a millionaire or not, but these are devastating issues that are happening in our communities, and we all feel really, really powerless as individuals and even as groups to do anything, to get a meeting, to get someone to listen to us. Even if it doesn't result in change, just the respect to sit down and have a face-to-face meeting and listen to us, whether that's with our local representatives or whether it's with the council officers. I just want to convey how disappointed and frustrated I am. But I want to come back to point 4 about the communication in the Steps Primary School in relation to the reconfiguration of the community hub in the library. And it's just interesting listening to Andrew McPherson talking about speak to me, and I'll put forward about the meetings that you want to arrange. I'm old enough to remember the original plan that was proposed in Steps Primary School for the reconfiguration of the extra units that were going to be built in the school grounds, and all the excitement and all the discussion and all the consultation that was going to happen. And I'm old enough to remember that all that being ditched without us being involved in that process and the discussion. More recently, we have asked several times to meet about the proposals about the library. We had one meeting where we were told what was going to be happening, so it wasn't a consultation. And albeit they said we could send in our questions and our queries and ask for more information and take time to absorb what was being presented to us. But thereafter, we came together as a community. We're all volunteers here. We're all, doing multiple things and knackered and exhausted and trying so hard to fight for our community. But we were refused, again, an opportunity to sit down and talk about both the community hub and the impacts to the primary school. And both, as I say, as a parent and a community member, we're anxious, we're frustrated, we're fed up. Just, the disrespect towards this community is just, it's at another level just now, that we can't even sit down and have face-to-face meetings and the opportunity to listen and hear us out and hear our contributions. We have solutions, we have ideas, and it's not all about if the starting point of this was respect and listening and equality and fairness of stakeholders, then we wouldn't all be sitting here moaning and complaining. We have suggestions about improvements, about how to make things better, but now things are so bad, it's just went to the other end of everything being dreadful and a disaster. So I wanted to put that on record. It's not necessarily a question, because we just seem to go around in circles and asking for meetings. We are waiting. We have to wait again to hear what's happening with the library, rather than having the opportunity to sit and meet and the impacts on the school.
Thank you, Diane. Katrina Shelley.
Hi there, sorry. I just kind of, the previous ladies just kind of said kind of what I had to say, but I've kind of just written down here whether these people are willing to speak to us. I don't, why should we ask their permission? They work for us. We pay our council tax. Now, many years ago, I did some volunteer stuff with an international aid agency, and they did a lot of stuff, a lot of campaigning and things with the government, and that was the fundamental thing. We respectfully demand that you come to see us. You work for us. We don't work for you. So I think again, it's going back to communication, the wording and the phrasing. And Andrea, I'm really sorry you're getting it. I appreciate, and thank you very much for coming. But I don't want somebody to tell me whether they're willing to come and speak to us. I want them to tell us when they are coming to speak to us and confirm with us if it's convenient for us. Because at the end of the day, North Lanarkshire Council work for us. We don't work for them. They work for our communities. And I think that's what we need to put forward. We need to be quite forceful about it. Alice, what you've said is amazing. The lady from Gartcosh, absolutely, totally 100% behind you on both of it, because Marysburn is the same now. But kind of so like the other lady, I don't have a question. I just had a comment, and there you go. I hope you appreciate what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution, Katrina. Michael McPake, Councillor McPake.
Thanks, Chair. I've listened with interest and agree with a lot of people on a lot of points that have been made here tonight. I want to put to bed one misconception that planning haven't engaged, and the people in the call who contributed to a very fiery meeting in Christen Community Hub. I would say around about 2018. Graham Lee was the lead planning officer that was there. And it came out of the exact same sort of meeting we're having tonight, a very unproductive meeting. We're going round in circles, arguing over old things instead of getting our heads together and formulating plans to move forward rather than going round and round and round. Planning, we're at the meeting, it was asked for the same as this, and they came out and nobody wanted to listen to what was being said. They just, this is where we're going wrong. Everybody's got their own ideas where we're going right and wrong. I think it's high time we got our heads together instead of going round in circles here. Thank you.
If I could just interject, just to say we're going round and round in circles, my experience is that stems from North Lanarkshire Council, when we were dealing with the Dunlop boundary issue for the last few years as Councillor McLaren said, when we were having a few discussions with officials, we even put forward several suggestions that could provide temporary solutions, long-term solutions, how we could engage it, how we could work it, and the round and round in circles and the way the approach came from was not from the residents. And I think a lot of people will back that up. It's not the residents that go round and round in circles. We are trying to put forward solutions. We're coming up against brick walls.
Thank you. And Andrew, do you just want to make a final comment so we try and wrap this one up?
So I think rather than having people having to contact me, if the feeling of the board is that there is a meeting requested by residents with education and planning, then I will ask the Education Planning Service if they're willing to accommodate that, and I will come back through yourself, Brandon.
Yes, I think the comments really that you're getting is it's not a case of if they're willing. They are in fact council officers working on our behalf. So it's not a case of being willing. They're being actually paid to do a job. So they should be coming to.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. So if again, apologies for the use of the word in there, but yeah, I'll definitely request that the meeting is asked for, and I'll pass that to the relevant services, and I'll come back to yourself, Brandon, with details of.
So now you understand why a special meeting was requested.
Yes, no, listen, I understand that, but I genuinely thought the questions that you asked had been answered now through the statutory consultation for the Gartcosh Primary School, the statutory consultation for the alignment of the ward boundaries, and the detail on the planning for the school capacities.
However, you must also be aware that none of us knew of these things at the time when the questions were asked.
And that's how the questions were asked. Yeah, I'd accept that. So, but I genuinely thought that this document had answered those questions. If you still feel that a meeting is required to discuss other aspects, then I'll happily ask that for you. That's not a problem, and I'll come back to yourself, Brandon.
Yeah, I think that is the strength of feeling of the community. They wish to speak with those people direct rather than through an intermediary.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm sorry you've had to bear the brunt of this, but you've done your best for us. We move on now, and we've still got a fair bit to cover. Let's see if we can try and get through this. Community Solutions Programme. I'm not sure who's picking up on this one.
That's myself, Brandon.
Yeah.
It was a question that had came up to be added to the agenda, and I've went and got a bit of feedback. It's with regard to the proposal by through the Community Solution Programme to establish 9 community connectors. So the background for this came from a previous project called Support in the Right Direction. This was funded by the Scottish Government to provide independent, self-directed support to families and carers accessing the social care system. For example, to enable carers to directly buy in support most suitable to their needs and the needs of their carers or they're cared for. That project was extended and it led to this Community Connectors idea being identified for North Lanarkshire. So there's to be 9 community connectors across North Lanarkshire. I've been told at this stage, in terms of Northern Corridor, North locality in total, including Cumbernauld and Kilsyth, there will be 3 community connectors that will be employed by local community organisations. The current consortia hosts, or the new consortia hosts from April this year, will be offered the opportunity to host those connectors. Now, some of the funding's coming through the Community Solutions Programme, also coming from the Health and Social Care North Lanarkshire budget, NHS Charities Together, Scottish Government and Macmillan for the Improving Cancer Care Journey are also looking to put money into this as well. So as I said, there'll be across 9 consortia, there'll be 9 connectors across 6 consortia, and as I say, once that is defined who the consortium host will be, I'll come back with an update. I also wanted to mention about the people may be aware of there are 6 consortia across North Lanarkshire, but in the Northern Corridor area, it's part of what's called the North locality, including Cumbernauld and Kilsyth, but the same amount of money is allocated to that consortium as the other 5. So I've raised that with the Community Solutions Governance subgroup, and they're taking that on board. They're going to consider it, and for the new financial year kicks in, they're going to report back on a possible solution to make that a bit more equitable for the 3 areas across the North locality, in particular Northern Corridor. So I'll feed back in that post-April once I get an update. That's all I had to update on that one, Chair.
Thank you. Claire Williams, Councillor Williams, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Thanks, Peter, for doing that bit of work to find out about this. I'd asked for it to be put on the agenda because we've been talking about the need for a community connector in the Northern Corridor for as long as I can remember now, and I think the LOIPs demonstrate the need for that. The LOIPs that we identified, the social inclusion, the trust and communication, they are all things that can be built by someone in this post. And I think it's really important that we do push for one for the Northern Corridor. It would be a travesty if the 3 community connectors were hosted in Cumbernauld. It doesn't allow for the integration into communities that's needed to make the best of that work. So I'm hoping we might possibly put it on the agenda for next community board to get an update from Peter and see how we can work to make sure that this programme works for our communities here rather than a focus on the North locality. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. As an aside, to pick up in some way on this, a resident of Auchenlock recently contacted North Lanarkshire Council for some support and assistance with some mobility aids, basically to get a handrail put in to enable her to get in and out of her house. And their contact with the council basically was, Auchenlock, where's that? So unfortunately, that local resident was left with nowhere to go because the council just didn't seem to know. I don't know who she spoke to, but they just didn't seem to know that Auchenlock was part of NLC. So would this connection, overcome those sorts of issues?
Yeah, to be determined, Brandon, but I think it's a very good point you make, particularly in an area that is quite rural, particularly Auchenlock in that case. It might be worth, maybe through one of the subgroups, to possibly contact the Community Solutions subgroup with your idea to have a dedicated post for the Northern Corridor. If you think that would be something that would be worth consideration, just the point that Claire raised there. So I'll be quite happy to facilitate.
But surely, if they're going to have a dedicated post for, I'm going to say, the 8 towns, why not the Northern Corridor?
As I said, what's been fed back today is that there'll be 3 across the North locality. So maybe that's a starting point to then ask for clarification if you could get a dedicated post.
Okay, we'll pick that one up. The item on contextual safeguarding will move on to the next meeting. Unfortunately, the speaker for that was unable to attend, and their substitute has had to leave us. So we'll move that to the next meeting. Community drop-in points initiative. Matt Costello.
Thanks, Chair. It's just to give an update on some of the recent work that's been undertaken in relation to the community drop-in points as part of the Council's cost of living approach. I wanted just to update the community board in relation to in the areas the work that's been undertaken across a number of venues to provide the warm place, some refreshments for people at different times in different areas across the area. So there's been quite a good success in the Northern Corridor. Quite a few groups have participated in this and have accessed the funding. And most recently, another 5 groups have taken additional funding to see them through further towards the end of March to extend the existing provision that they have. So it's been really good, the work's been undertaken across the different areas, and there will be a further report that will come to the community boards that will give more information, more detailed information about the type of usage we've had, the kind of the demographic of the people who have attended the venues, and the feedback we've had from the feedback sheets that we've requested from people. So I just want to give a kind of brief update to that at this stage and advise that a further more detailed report will be provided to the boards in due course.
Thank you. I'm not sure who we have next. Driving digitally locally. I'm not sure who we have as a speaker for that.
I think Lynn Gow was intending to speak. Is she still on the meeting? I'm not sure.
If I can just come in there. Lynn Gow, unfortunately, Brandon's had to leave the meeting as well. The paper has been issued already to the board regarding driving digital locally, and the recommendation within the paper is to encourage people to, if there isn't already representatives from the particular board, at least one, possibly 2 representatives participate in the subgroup that's there. And if people are interested in that, to contact Lynn directly or come through ourselves in the community partnership team.
Right. I suspect the problem we have is we've only got the small number of people that we have, and it might be a case that these meetings clash with others. I don't know. But we will try. If we can find other names, we will try.
Oh, that'd be helpful. Thanks, Brandon.
Peter, local engagement consultation.
Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, this is a standing item on the agenda. If anyone knows of any consultations in particular they want to flag up and have passed on or sent on to any groups or any community organisations, one that I have is a report that's been published by North Lanarkshire Carers Together. They'd conducted a survey around the cost of living emergency and how that was impacting carers in North Lanarkshire. They got the idea from a report they'd read at a Scottish-wide level, but they were keen to find out the position in North Lanarkshire. So I'll make sure at the paper, I'll send over to Gabby and make sure the paper's sent out with the minutes. And really, has anybody else got any other consultations they want to raise at this point? If not, I'll move on to funding opportunities. In terms of the council, we have the Recover NL programme still available to 16th of March, and we encourage any applications for any organisations that is interested. Consortium, again, local activity fund still available up until the 31st of March, and that will be replenished next year when the programme kicks in for year 23-24. And again, just to mention National Lottery, in particular the Rewards for All programme, they're still keen on getting applications from North Lanarkshire, and particularly the Northern Corridor, Kilsyth, Cumbernauld areas. Happy to support any groups that need any advice or support on that. Please get in touch. And that's me on that one, Chair.
Thank you very much. Andrew, it's your turn again. This time the community coordinator role that you take on board. Do you have anything to report on that?
Not very much, Brandon, to be honest. Most of it's already been covered. So really just a couple of quick things, just making sure that people are aware of the fuel hardship payment and the pensioner fuel grant. Those obviously are still there. So any eligible people, although that's it's the right available up until the 31st of March. So just want to make sure that everybody keeps awareness of that to apply for it as well. Also, the North Lanarkshire Social Enterprise Framework, let's say I can put a link to it on the chat bar. But that's there really for any social enterprises that we have in the Northern Corridor. And it's really there to provide, sources of support and actually how to actually join in the network. I don't know, obviously the local community groups will know better than me, but just in case there's anybody that needs further information on that, I can put that in the chat bar as well, just a link in there as to where that can be found.
Okay,
That's it,
thank
Brandon.
you. All right, thank you very much. Matt Costello, the local development programme update.
Yeah, Diane Delaney, their hand up there. I don't know if it's went back down again. I don't know if she wanted to come in.
Oh, I didn't spot that.
So I had just quickly taken it back down because I wasn't sure whether it was a spot to come in or not to ask. I don't know whether it's Andrew to ask a question to or not. So I don't know whether, do you want me to wait and I'll come in at the end?
No, far away.
No, do you know, I just wanted to ask, apologies if I've missed this or if the information's out there that I should already know about, but I had previously tried to make some inquiries about I'm aware that North Lanarkshire Council are offering housing to Ukrainian families. I had made some inquiries to my local councillor about what services, resources, information support is available in the local communities for our communities to support refugees and asylum seekers, whether they are Ukrainian families or families fleeing any other country. I've got information from the Scottish Government, the kind of national information, but I can't find anything online about. So I'm not asking what North Lanarkshire Council do. I'm asking what can local communities like us people do? What are the resources and the information support that we can access that allows us to support refugees and families that are fleeing their home country to come and live here? I just wondered where I could find that information.
Peter McNally's put his hand up.
Thanks, Brandon. Diane, some of our colleagues in the Community Learning Development section are directly supporting some of the Ukrainian families, some around English as a second language courses and other practical support. And I know they're linking in with some groups on the ground that are trying to support the Ukrainians. So I could get a contact name for you and email something out if that would help.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. And again, obviously, from an education point of view and a parent council point of view, there are very specific needs of families that our children are coming into schools that need to be addressed. And obviously, as parent groups, we want to offer support in that as well. So it was, I had also asked if there was specific information being created for groups, but parent groups, parent councils, since parent councils have a role in supporting other parents in their children's education. So I don't know if that's worth taking back to find out if the council are creating some sort of resources or something for parent groups for refugees in general. I don't think it should just be about Ukrainian families. Thanks very much, Peter, for that. Cheers.
Thank you. Matt, do you want to pick up on the...
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just very briefly, just the report was issued with the papers a couple of weeks ago, just updates on the projects that have been undertaken through the local development programme. There's a couple of specific points that Peter was going to come in just to highlight in relation to the progress of the LDP. And I was just through you, Chair, just hand over to Peter just to give some brief updates.
Yes, okay.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Chair. Yeah, we're looking for approval for a single project on the programme tonight, and it's, funnily enough, at Gartcosh with the Lochside play area. It's a play area that's in pretty poor state, and it's one we can seek funding from the Scottish Government. I think I mentioned at the last board meeting about the Scottish Government's play refurbishment programme, and this would be one project we could potentially get £50,000 to support that project. Also looking for a contribution from LDP for up to £10,000 and looking for approval for that tonight. Now, it's possible we might not require that and we might be able to use the Scottish Government money solely, but there's been quite a big response from local people looking for, as we heard earlier on, looking for decent play facilities in the area. And I know that a couple of residents' meetings held by Councillor Lennon, the issue came up. Gartcosh Tenants and Residents Association have flagged it up too. So yeah, looking for approval for that project tonight, Chair.
I I'll throw it open, but I can't see anybody saying no to it. Does the LDP funding actually be able to support the additional 10,000 should you need it?
Possibly, yeah.
Sorry, Peter. On you go.
Sorry, I was just going to say, well, it's possibly a safeguard. We're hoping the Scottish Government money would clinch the deal, but yeah, it's if we do need that extra 10,000, it might make the project happen. But Mark, you might have a better idea.
Well, just that, Peter, that's something that's just to give us the opportunity to use that funding as well in conjunction with the Scottish Government funding, that's all.
Isabel Kelly, you got your hand up first.
I would definitely say I would support the £10,000, and that being, as Matt, as you're well aware, the only piece of ground that's available in Gartcosh is the village square, the small piece of ground next to the community centre, isn't that you don't own any land, so therefore Gartcosh can't get any local money for projects because it has to be set inside council ground. So you do own the park at Lochside. So I think as a safeguard, £50,000 is not a great amount of money for play parks nowadays. So the extra £10,000 might help to make it a bit more interesting.
Thank you, Isabel. John Harrow.
Well, I applaud the £50,000 that's going to be given to the play park down at Lochside, and good Lord, it needs it. Let me just get this right. £50,000 is being bandied about here, and the council were offered a memorial park 5, 6, 7 times the size of that with facilities already on it for £1, and they didn't take it. Can someone explain that to me, please?
Hi, John. Can explain in the sense that this money's became available from Scottish Government to all local authorities, all 32, to develop or to refurbish current play facilities that are on our land. So it's a positive in that sense that we can refurbish those areas that maybe at end of life, like the one at Lochside, as you mentioned. In terms of the legacy stuff, sorry, couldn't answer what the previous story, only that, as Councillor Lennon, I think, mentioned earlier, it was now owned by Tata Steel. The previous history, I've no idea, but certainly I did have a look at some of the equipment myself last summer. I think there was a rocket that was rusted very badly and fallen to bits and probably should have been removed at that time. And I think it's good that Tata have taken it out now. But going back to your previous point, sorry, I couldn't answer what's happened in the past.
Councillor Lennon, you have your hand up, so you might have some insight.
Yeah, thanks very much, Brandon. Well, a quick question for Peter in relation to Scottish Government funding. Do we have a time scale on when we're going to find out an outcome of that? And then in addition, obviously, I welcome this funding application and then potentially the LDP money coming to the area. However, it's to touch on John O'Hara's point. Would this be an appropriate setting to raise the point to see if we could get a reconsideration on Memorial Park using the community board function as opposed to a committee structure? Because obviously, I think the power would lie with the board then, that you've got local residents coming forward and elected members highlighting an asset that could potentially be used for community use. And potentially we re-look and revisit the adoption and the legacy stuff, as Peter has mentioned. Plus, also, I would like to pick up on a point as well. John O'Hara mentioned earlier on that Councillor McLaren, I don't think he's on the call any longer. There was something in the region of £25,000 set aside for Memorial Park. So surely, A, that funding has not been spent because there's not been an investment in Memorial Park for time and memorial, no pun intended on that. But also, in addition to that, that would be a good kickstart if that £25,000 is still available to invest in this, if it's a case that the community board decide that this is an appropriate request.
Hi, John, I could come back there. Sorry, Councillor Lennon and John. Yeah, in terms of the Memorial Park, and the money that was maybe indicated before was indicative. When there's an LDP project that appears as a budget, potentially put next to that what something might cost, it's not an indication that budget will definitely be there, but it's an indicative cost for the project at that stage when it's identified. I think in terms of Memorial Park, it's maybe something that a community group could possibly ask Tata Steel about the land to take on and actually develop based on what the community wants. And I'm just wondering if that is a potential for Gartcosh. It's just not land that we own. I think it would be unlikely that we would take it back. I could be wrong, but it might have scope for development by the local community.
Can I come in with a supplementary, Chair? Would that be possible?
Yes, you may.
Right, there'd be concern at the fact that a local community group take ownership of that, given the fact that public liability and various other things would fall to them, Peter, to be perfectly honest. We've already heard this evening, a number of groups raised concern at the fact of a lack of amenity in the area, that the council is doing nothing. We've heard that £10 million council tax receipt is coming for the area and growing exponentially year on year. I don't see it as being an unreasonable request or expectation that the council take that land, maintain that land, given the low cost associated with it. But also in addition to that, the accessibility for funding for their part. You've just mentioned this evening Scottish Government money. Then potentially we could have a play part that's fit for purpose.
Isabel Kelly.
Just to say that this part not being the council's is a moot point. The council had this listed with a number. They had a maintenance contract for it. It was maintained for over 60 years by Strathkelvin Council, and then when it became North Lanarkshire Council. And as far as Tata Steel was concerned, it was the council's. The problem only came to light when Tata Steel could not, within their paperwork, find out at which point they transferred it, and North Lanarkshire Council could not find any deeds or any paperwork associated with it. It was down and it was on the list for Ward 6 as a park belonging to North Lanarkshire Council, and we've been arguing that for the last 18 months. But North Lanarkshire Council, all this, see if they hadn't decided not to cut grass, that park would have been up for inspection in the usual way that North Lanarkshire Council does for play equipment, and they would have condemned the equipment because it was rusted, it was old, etc., and it would have been down for new equipment. It's only because the grass cutting stopped, because they decided that land didn't belong to them. But that park had a number, it was registered to North Lanarkshire Council, and it had a registered maintenance contract. So, to all intents and purposes, it was a North Lanarkshire park. They have chosen to decide that it's not. And as Greg has said, and as John has said, with all the money that has come in, and community tax money, and roof tax paid by developers, they can't fund something simple like play park. If they can't do that, they're not going to be able to give us anything that we want.
Thank you, Isabel. And finally, Matt, come back to you.
Yeah, just on the points, Chair, regarding that, it's just that in terms of that park, obviously there's history to that. We can make some further inquiries into that, to the background, and provide some further information to the board in relation to that. We can't make a decision.
I can give you the contract numbers, and I can give you the numbers.
Yeah,
I have that to hand, Matt.
Well, that's fine. If you send me that as well, we can certainly make inquiries on it.
Thank you.
That historically, there has been parks across North Lanarkshire that haven't been on council ground, that have been maintained just through tradition, as you mentioned, through a previous councils, including North Lanarkshire and the previous district councils, etc. So there is history to that. And it gets to a certain stage, then the council will no longer maintain them once they reach the end of life, etc. In terms of the council taking that land on, obviously, Councillor Lennon mentioned about a discussion with our previous head of service about that, and a decision was made. That we can't change that decision here, but we can certainly go back and find out more information about it and feed that back to the community board in due course. Hope that's okay at this stage, Chair.
Thank you. And I think probably the final item, which talks about any other competent business, hopefully we've had plenty of opportunity during the course of this meeting.
Sorry, Chair, Councillor Lennon's raised a hand.
I've just noticed Councillor Lennon has put his hand up.
Very much, Chair. Just to come back on Matt's point then. So obviously, Matt, there'd be a reluctance then for the community board to overturn a decision
However, there's surely special circumstance in this instance, given the fact that if we do prove the fact there was a contract with North Lanarkshire Council on that site and various other elements involved in it, surely the community board can raise that then via committee and then look for a special circumstance in this occasion.
Well, just on that point, Councillor, I would certainly, through yourself, Chair, I would certainly pick up any of the issues that are there and discuss that with the relevant service. And if there's whatever road that needs to go down in relation to that, that's something that would need to be done internally within the council. And then we can feed that back to the board and to provide you with information regarding that. But absolutely, any information that's out there, we'll happily pull that together and see where we can go with that.
I'll provide you the communications with Nicole Patterson and also Tata's solicitors, Matt, so you have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anne-Marie?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to request to use this public platform to request an emergency response from what is my Chief Executive Operating Officer, Des Murray. I expect a response. We want a face-to-face meeting at Cardown Community Meadow to have discussions around the fraudulent activity, documentation that we have experienced on our journey. Thank you. I would like that carried forward by the officers here present tonight.
Okay. Any other points to be raised by anybody?
Chair, just one point. I'll be very, very quick. It was to raise a bit of information about the council is starting to develop an ambitious open space strategy.
Point. I'm unsure what that means, but if there's any allegation.
I've lost you.
Sorry, it's there's a delay in my thing. So it's coming that last point, Brandon. Sorry.
Yes.
Just in Anne-Marie's point, I sorry, maybe you're answering it, Christine, just about if there's any allegations of fraud or anything like that, then that has to be put in writing to the council. If you could do that, that's obviously quite a serious allegation.
The process is untrustworthy. I publicly request on this recorded meeting a face-to-face meeting with my Chief Executive Operating Officer, Des Murray. Thank you.
No, well, the chief executive will not attend a meeting without knowing what the substance to that meeting is. So what we need to find out is what the allegations of fraud are, and if that needs to be put in writing, it will be dealt with through the proper channel. But we need to find the detail of what you're actually asking us to look at first.
I think if you listened to this board meeting and all previous board meetings that have been in attendance by all of these volunteer representatives of their communities, and the experiences they have had and the misrepresentation of documentation that's been put forward to them, there is enough evidence there for them to go and have a look at. I again publicly request a meeting with my Chief Executive. I seek counsel. Thank you.
Right. Obviously, I'm not sure how this has progressed, but we'll obviously have to look and see how that is acted upon. Christine, you were saying?
Chair, Matt Costello's got his hand up. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh, Matt, your hand.
Matt, you're on mute.
On mute.
Oh, just the points Anne-Marie's raising there. That Anne-Marie has raised similar points before, and we have asked for information to be put in writing regarding this. And I would suggest again, Anne-Marie, before any meetings take place, that any information is put in writing to us, so that can be addressed internally within the council and then taken through the proper procedures. That has been raised at the board before, and that is the position we have to take on that.
Again, I would like to respond by saying that the process is untrustworthy, and I seek counsel of my Chief Executive Operator. Thank you.
I think the point that's being made is the request needs to be put in writing.
With details of what fraudulent activities being alleged, because the chief executive may well not be able to meet you, Anne-Marie, because if it is fraud, the chief executive will be the ultimate determinant of as to whether that actually taken place. So he may well have to remove himself from any process on that. So you have to put your allegations in writing and they will be properly investigated. It's a serious allegation, Anne-Marie, and you have to put that in writing.
He has already received it. It has been sent to him, and I would accept a response from him. Thank you.
Christine?
Thanks, Chair. Just very, very quickly, I know time's rolling on. Just to let you know that North Lanarkshire is starting to develop their ambitious open space strategy. And from the beginning of April, they will be inviting local people and groups to respond to a survey asking their views on the quantity, quality and accessibility of open space and play opportunities in North Lanarkshire. So it's just to give people an update that will be something that's coming on board as of the beginning of April. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Diane Delaney, you have your hand up.
Yeah, can I just check with that the lady that just said there about the play opportunities? Does that include school playground opportunities?
Brandon, is it okay if I respond to that?
Yes, it
I
is.
don't actually know the whole ins and outs of this. We've just been asked to raise it at the meeting, but certainly I can take that point back and get a response in relation to that for you, Diane, if that's okay.
Yeah, because I would just put on record that you know, there are major issues. I think there's a bit of irony about a bit of work being done about open spaces when we're losing all our open spaces, and we don't have any open spaces. And certainly in Steps Primary, playground is you know, is not good enough as the view of the parents and well, I better not speak on behalf of the school, but certainly not good enough in terms of the parents and the children's viewpoint. But so again, there's not many routes that we as individuals or as groups can go down to ask for help to resolve an issue like the school playground not being good enough for the kids to go out and play a place where they are for 6 hours a day. So it would be helpful because if kids are playing and they spend you know, a big part of the day in school, I think the school has to the school playground area and the kind of surrounding area has to be included in that as well.
As I said, obviously I'll kind of feed that back for you, Diane, and we'll get a response on that.
That's great. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
No problem. Thank you.
I think we have come. Oh no, Isabel, you've just put your hand up. Isabel Kelly. Isabel?
Sorry. I wonder if there's anybody at the meeting tonight could tell me what an intelligent brief process is. It was in the minute of a meeting regarding the Gartcosh school, and if consultation didn't take place or consultation didn't come to fruition, they would fast track this through an intelligent brief process. Does anyone know what that is? Because I don't know what it means. I've tried to read the minute and tried to read it, and I can't figure out what that particular process is.
Thank you. Maybe if somebody could come back to Isabel with a
Andrew's got his hand up.
Andrew.
And Matt's got his hand up.
Not being at the meeting, Isabel, but I think where did the minute come from? Whoever issued the minutes, I would certainly go back to them and ask them to clarify where what they meant by that process.
It was is it Communities and Education Committee?
Oh, so and it was a paper that went there. Is that right?
It's a minute of the meeting, and they added the consultation document to the end of the minute. So although the consultation is not at the 1st of March, the consultation document that's not been released yet was actually tagged on to the end of the minute. But in the minute they were talking about the consultation process, but because for the need and the urgency of the school, they were going to enact an intelligent brief process, and if the consultation failed, they would then withdraw from the intelligent brief process. I have no idea what that is. Could you find out for me and get back to me?
Yeah.
It's
No
just
problem.
if it's got any bearing in the consultation, it might be useful to be able to actually say to people. And what it says is, well, this project predates the creation of town and community hub programmes. All projects not yet designed will follow the 6 guiding principles, which is hysterical, attached to town and country hub programmes. As such, in addition, the request to statutory education consultation, there will be effective engagement with both the school and the wider community throughout the design stage of the project. Should it be approved to process following statutory consultation, it is proposed that the intelligent brief process, which facilitates engagement with stakeholders, would not wait until the education consultation is concluded, but it will deliver at risk. It is not the case that the outcome is predetermined, hence at-risk proposal. The Council is looking to deliver a new facility as soon as practically possible due to pressures at the existing establishment. However, it should be noted that should the outcome of the statutory education consultation conclude that the proposal should not be progressed, the work in the intelligent brief would cease.
Thank you, Isabel. I think that is obviously a lot of council speak there. Maybe Andrew could assist.
Yeah.
Councillor Lennon?
Thanks very much, Brandon. Just to ask Isabel, was that an education committee paper, Isabel? And to give you a wee kind of thing, I don't know exactly what it means, but for my chat with the service that's overseeing the Schools and Centres 24 stuff, there was a point that was kind of highlighted that potentially the statutory consultation could be bypassed, and I'm wondering if that's what it is.
Okay. Katrina Shelley?
I just Googled it. Sorry, I Google everything. And if it's something to do with data. So what they're going to use, it may be, Councillor Lenny might be right, it says an intelligent briefing is a document including analysis and information about your operations by fusing intelligence from various data sources. So so it may be that they're saying that if they don't have time for the consultation, they're just going to use data that's already there. But what that type of data is and whether, you know, you then get into whether it's quantitative or qualitative and all that kind of stuff. So it's a way of saying possibly that they're going to use different forms of data, but it might be.
Well, we're speculating, but it might mean the usual council will no bother having a proper consultation. We'll just make the data skew to whatever way we want. Well, we say the school's not big enough.
Yeah, I suppose the thing there, Isabel, if that's kind of what it's going to be, then it might be a case of then you need to see the data, and then I'm sure between us we could figure out what the data means. But as I say, I've just Googled it quickly, and that there's other bits about it as well. But to me, I would say that they're going to. It could be that they're going to use data that they've already got to make their decision, but I could be wrong.
And can we finalise this with Councillor McPake?
Yes, my understanding of it, the meetings myself, Greg, and Joanne, Councillor Kilty had with James McKinstry and Charles McCabe, what they're intending to do, there's absolutely no way to try and interrupt the statutory consultation. That has got to take place. But what they are seeking to do with this intelligent brief is to carry on with work in parts of design and basically start the work of planning a new school. Until we get the statutory consultation, we can't go forward with this. But what they're doing is starting the work so that hopefully when we get the statutory consultation comes back, then they're ahead of the game, if you like. So they're nobody trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes here. They're not going to be, definitely, they're not allowed to not have statutory consultation, and they wouldn't do that anyway. So I can assure you, it's obviously it's a term. I don't think anybody around this table should be worried about it at this point in time. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Michael.
Isabel?
Just to say thanks, Michael.
Councillor Lennon?
Thanks very much. I don't think that I was suggesting at any point that the wool's been pulled over anybody's eyes. However, if it's a case that they're going to start the design process, then launch a statutory consultation, does that not mean then potentially, for talking's sake, that the initial proposal, I think, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, was always to be that we'd have an ESN bit, we'd have a nursery, we would have community facility in a primary school? Well, with this bypass process, then surely if it's coming in at a design stage, if we drop a nursery or if we drop the ESN or the community section, surely before it goes to a statutory consultation, then really in effect it's by design as opposed to coming to what the community needs are. But as I say, stand corrected if anybody else wishes to tell me differently.
Councillor McPake?
Well, Greg, I don't want to get in a public argument with you, but you were at the meetings as well as me, and it was explained that at least 2 meetings that this is the process that would go down. And I'm not suggesting they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes. Or, I don't think we should be overly concerned about the term. I think it's good management, it's good working practice. They're not going to design a school to the nth degree, then the public consultation comes back and says something else. What they're trying to do here is get a couple of months ahead of the game, because if you wait to the end of the 6 months of the public consultation, you're 6 months away from. So what they're doing is putting their ducks in a row, if you like. Then the design stage will take place after the public consultation.
10 years and 2 school sites identified, Michael. I think people are rightly erring on the side of caution.
Not to go on much longer. I realise my question has held us up a little, but going back to the last consultation, we had instances where they were talking about open plan classrooms to save money and space, etc. But they were putting in assisted learning of something like 28 children. Now that was something we were very clear about, that having, and having somebody, a member of the family who has required special needs, and you look at somebody with autism, maybe sitting in an area where mainstream children are being taught and the classroom next to you has got something else going on, it is very, very difficult for those children. But if you look at an intelligent briefing, the way Michael has described it, if the pennies suit for it to be open classrooms, when quite clearly under consultation the community is saying no because there's assisted learning going on there, that would give me concern. So although Michael, will take it in good faith, Michael, in the way that it's been explained by you tonight, but it's just a point of caution that we will have to look at it, because there's certain things in the school we having that requirement for special needs, that having the number of placements that they're putting the kids in that school into now, that it wouldn't work. But the space is very, very tight, and there is absolutely no room there for any community facilities. So the 6 guiding points when making a community hub is quite laughable with that. So on that note, I won't say any more about it.
Thank you, Isabel. Katrina?
That's very briefly, Chairman, thanks. Michael, I appreciate what you're saying and stuff like that, but maybe it goes back to, again, sort of a communication. We're all volunteers, and, so it may be that when the council's sending these things out, if they could just make it a bit more understandable to the man in the street, I think, more than anything else, because obviously Isabel's been concerned about what this means and has been trying to find out. So it might just be a case of, I don't know how we do that, but maybe the communication between ourselves and the council just needs to be a bit better so that people understand what they mean. That's my point.
And can we just, a final point from Michael and
Well, Chair, if I could just wrap up with, first of all, Katrina's point there. You've got to remember, Katrina, this consultation isn't due to start to next week. The Education and Families Committee is a week on Tuesday, I think. If I'm right, I better watch in case it's next Tuesday. So after that, the Education and Families Committee have got to get the go-ahead to go out to consultation. So therefore, the day after that, the consultation period starts. So therefore, that's when the council aren't trying to hide anything here. These papers have been made public just this week. So the committee's not actually, got the go-ahead to go out to consultation yet. I'm sure it will. On Isabel's point, finally, regarding open plan, we don't do open plan schools anymore. There was a school opened in New Mains this week, and apparently it is an absolute masterpiece, and that's what we're aiming for in Gartcosh. We'll have the good luck to see what's happening in Christ later on this year, because that will open every school they build is better than the last one. And they've learned a long time ago that open plan does not work. So there won't be any open plan. They certainly wouldn't have ESN, in a corridor or whatever, where other children or the ASN's child might be disturbed. So that will all be taken care of. It will be a community hub. We've been assured that there's there's enough room there. And again, I've asked to say that we're building this fantastic facility, and it's going back on a wee bit it was said earlier on, but I'm not going to say it's definitely going to happen, but I've certainly asked, why can't we put a play facility next to the new school? So that's been looked at as well. That'll all come through the consultation, and hopefully that'll all come through the design stage. So I think we're getting there. It's taking a long time to get there, but we're certainly getting there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think at this point I would like to bring the matter to a close. I would like to thank all of you that are still with us for your perseverance and your contributions. I think the meeting has had some good discussion, and obviously the points of the community have been brought to the fore. I just wish that it would be a good thing for us to get together face to face, because maybe some of the miscommunications may happen because we tend to meet now over purely an electronic or purely as you say, a paper is published, but the wording used maybe not necessarily as understandable as if the person was in front of you. So thank you to those of you that have attended. Thank you for your participation. And thank you to those who are going to go away after this meeting and come back with some answers for us. And with that, I would ask you to all have a very pleasant evening. Good night.
Thanks to the chair.
Thanks, Chair.
Everyone.